This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate what if Naruto became the leader of a new digital war. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Namikaze Minato. The shinobi would get chills at the mention of that name alone. He had done things in his brief 20 years of life that no one else had ever done. Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin, was his teacher. At the age of 10, he became a genin. By age 11, he was a chunin, and by age 12, a junin. He played a significant role in the Third Shinobi War. He destroyed more than one-third of the Iwagakure army by himself using his two self-made techniques, the Hiraishin and the Rasengan. In the bingo book, he was one of the few shinobi to receive an SS Flea on-site ranking. He met Kushina Uzumaki, the love of his life, when he was 7 years old. She lived through the Uzumaki clan massacre in Whirlpool Country. At the age of 18, he secretly married her after dating her since he was 12. And at the age of 19, she became pregnant. He became the Yondaime Hokage at the age of 20. Minato Namikaze went from being an orphan prankster to a ninja legend in just 20 years. For him, everything was going well. Sadly, fate had to show him why she was referred to as a bitch. He got some awful news while he was the Hokage. The strongest of the legendary demon lords, Kyuubi no Kitsune, was housed in his wife, who was due to give birth soon. Additionally, a female container seal is at its weakest during childbirth. He moved his wife and his most devoted Anbu to a far-off location from the village to protect it. He and the Anbu would be there to watch over his wife as she gave birth. Unfortunately, though, someone cut it short. Minato's wife was giving birth when Madara Uchiha, the Shodai Hokage's rival, wielder of the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, one of the strongest ninja in the Elemental Nation's history, and General Jerk, chose to attack her. His wife named their child Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze as she gave birth. Madara abducted their son a half-second later and made Minato either release the Kyuubi from its seal or watch Madara murder their child. Following the Kyuubi's release, Madara attacked Konoha by controlling it with his Sharingan. The strongest of the legendary demon lords, Kyuubi no Kitsune, was now headed straight for their village, and they had only a few hours at most before it arrived. The village's shinobi resisted allowing the demon to take their home. Even though they had enough time to evacuate everyone, they had gone too far and put in too much effort to allow the demon to intimidate them. They put up a fierce fight when the Kyuubi reached their village. Sadly, there were two drawbacks for the Konoha shinobi. First of all, since Kyuubi was an immortal demon, he was completely unaffected by their attacks. Second, it was being attacked by Madara Uchiha. Fortunately for Konohagakure, Minato Namikaze made the decision to demonstrate to Madara Uchiha what happens when he kills his wife and threatens his son. Kill his wife, please. Madara brutally killed Kushina when she attempted to defend herself. As a result, Minato not only vanquished Madara but also sealed him, preventing him from controlling the Kyuubi anymore. Madara stormed out of Konoha. Madara had been vanquished by the new widower, but he still had to contend with the Kyuubi. Madara put enough power into his genjutsu to hold the Kyuubi under his control for a few hours, despite the fact that the seal he applied to Madara made it impossible for him to control the Kyuubi ever again. His initial command to destroy Konohagakure would be carried out even though he was no longer able to implant any ideas into the demon fox's brain. Minato had to take action as the commander of Konoha's shinobi army. There was only one strategy he could think of to beat the Kyuubi. And doing so meant giving up his own soul in order to seal the Kyuubi's soul in a youngster. Theoretically, the child would need to have an underdeveloped chakra system. Sadly, only the powerful bodies of a genetic Uzumaki could contain the Kyuubi's terrifyingly high power. And his son was the only Uzumaki left to use after Kushina's death. Minato knew he had to seal the Kyuubi in Naruto, even though he didn't want to. Though he had a hunch that the directive would never be carried out, he left in his final will and testament that Naruto should be regarded as a hero. He made the seal in this manner for that reason. Because of the way the seal functions, Naruto could always use Kyuubi's power. Additionally, Naruto would gradually inherit the Kyuubi's power. He primarily meant for it to be used in emergency situations. Hopefully, those small features would protect his son. Minato sighed after doing a few more calculations. The time had come. He had to ruin his son's life in order to save his house. It was a huge decision, and he knew he would regret it for the rest of his life, but he had to make it. He couldn't allow that large, hairy beast to attack their house without protecting it. After cutting his finger and performing some hand seals, Minato Namikaze called forth Gamabunta, his favorite summoned toad. Knowing that this would be his final time riding into battle, he hopped on Gamabunta's head. Minato was prepared minutes into the fight. He ordered the rest of his ninja to retreat as soon as he got to the battlefield. Both the Kyuubi and Gamabunta weighed more than 10 tons and stood well over 30 feet tall. One of the Konoha ninja might unintentionally be smashed into a pancake if they got caught up in the fray. He looked down at his old friend after everyone had left and said, "Try to hold him for a minute, Bunta." With a grunt, Gamabunta seized the Kyuubi. Despite his firm grasp, he was having difficulty with the Kyuubi's strength. The Yondaime Hokage had his ninja place a seal on the ground during their evacuation, and when he saw his summon grasp the Kyuubi, he activated it. When the seal was activated, it threw up a barrier that made it impossible for organic flesh to pass through. Additionally, the barrier was completely dark from the outside, preventing the ninja from seeing the fight. To put it simply, it prevented anyone from witnessing or interfering with the conflict between Minato and the Kyuubi. Minato began performing hand seals at a breakneck speed after erecting the barrier. The Kyuubi was being held back by Gamabunta, but his hold was becoming progressively weakened. Fortunately, Gamabunta was spared from having to hold the Kyuubi, even though he wasn't sure if he could. At last, Minato had completed the hand seals. He sighed and called the Shinigami back to reality. The Shinigami made its appearance in a massive burst of white light. The Shinigami's transparent hand entered the Kyuubi after passing through Minato. When the Shinigami withdrew his hand, an orange ball roughly the size of his palm was found inside. Minato understood that to be the soul of the Kyuubi. Minato activated the seal on his son's stomach just as the soul was ready to enter the Shinigami's mouth through Minato's chest. He dragged his son into the spectral hand of the Shinigami. Unaware of this, the Shinigami continued to pull, causing the Kyuubi's soul to be drawn through Naruto's infant body. However, the seals on Naruto's stomach caused the Kyuubi's soul to momentarily fuse with Naruto's. The Shinigami was able to release the Kyuubi's soul due to that soul bond. As his ghostly hand left Naruto's body, the Shinigami ignored it. Unaware that he was still holding his breath, Minato released it. His son's soul, along with the Shinigami's and the Kyuubi's, would have been imprisoned in the Shinigami's stomach if he hadn't managed to free the Kyuubi's soul. The fight for his son's soul had been won by him. But he had no idea that another battle was happening in another world. In a world unknown. Damn it all. How the hell did I lose? How did I lose to those stupid do-gooders? It goes without saying that this individual was furious, but it would be incorrect to refer to it as a person. This wasn't a person, you see. It was not human at all. It was a Digimon, a different kind of species. This was just one of several. There were many strong, unusual, and clever creatures in this world. The humans' actions did not disturb the Digimon's way of life in their world. However, they had issues just like people. There was a war going on in the digital world. Normally, the digital world was peaceful, but recently, some Digimon began to cause trouble. A group headed by the Sour Digimon described earlier. The trouble is not spray painting a train, but rather, kidnapping and enslaving an entire town. The group's leader believed that because he was better than all the other Digimon, they had the right to treat them like property and punish them. King Drazel was their leader. His original Digimon species was unknown. Not even Drazel remembered. The unnamed Digimon, however, renamed himself Drazel after the overseer and creator of the digital world, Yggdrasil, because he felt he was better than other Digimon because he could change his mind and soul to different bodies. He believed that killing, injuring, and enslaving other Digimon was justified because of his superiority complex. No one was immune to his anger. People would be abducted by his army. They would have been annihilated in an instant if they had not consented to serve King Drazel and acknowledge him as their lord and master. Fortunately, he was opposed by other Digimon. Numerous Digimon were saved as a result of those Digimon's valiant battle against King Drazel and his army. King Drazel might have taken control of the entire digital world by then if they hadn't been engaged in combat with him. These good Digimon fought King Drazel's entire army today, rallying those who opposed him. In theory, nobody prevailed because Drazel's army was still in place. However, the king's empire had suffered a severe blow at the hands of the Digimon on the side of righteousness. Alphaman, their leader, used a massive black sword that he had conjured up to obliterate Drazel's body. Drazel was now circling the digital world in search of a new body to inhabit. He was fortunate to find one. Not in the digital world, though. He was able to enter the human world through the single portal in his actual form, which was a tiny crystalline figure in the shape of a woman. A tiny figure like his true form could easily pass through that portal unnoticed, but the good Digimon watched it like hawks. In the world of humans, Drazel had transitioned to the human world with ease. The difficult part was about to begin. Locating the most robust human body to house him. Drazel had a clue as to who the strongest human being was after he had taken the body of a random person and examined their memories. Cage was the name given to the strongest, and Drazel was going to find them. Once on Earth, he assumed control of a random individual and replicated their knowledge. Shinobi and Kunoichi were the strongest among them, he discovered. Drazel located a shinobi and took control of his body, using it to travel to the nearest ninja village, Iwagakure no Sato. After that, his body alternated between people until he arrived at the secretary of the Tsuchikage. His memory was copied, and he discovered that the Tsuchikage man was not the strongest. The Yondaime Hokage was the strongest man, the Digimon discovered. Approaching Konohagakure no Sato, he stole the body of an Iwa Anbu. When he got there, he noticed a large crowd gathered around a black wall. Drazel pushed his body in the direction of the barrier, but it blocked his path. Drazel attempted to enter in his true form after leaving the human's body. Despite the barrier, Drazel managed to pass through. Drazel moved to Minato's body just in time to see him call forth the Shinigami, oblivious to the enormous creature the Hokage was battling. Drazel stepped forward to seize Minato's body when the Shinigami was called forth. Drazel failed to notice the Kyuubi. Contrary to what everyone in the human world thought, the Kyuubi was not a demon. In reality, it was a Digimon. One of the good Digimon was it. In order to protect the humans in the event that the evil Digimon attempted to breach the barrier separating the human and digital world, Alphaman, the leader of the good Digimon, sent 10 of their strongest to the human world years ago. Drazel would have stopped and turned around if he had heeded the Kyuubi's warning. Although Kyuubi had vowed to defend humans from Digimon, he was surprised when one of them proved to be powerful enough to use a terrible genjutsu on him. Because of genjutsu, he believed that the Konoha people were evil and should be exterminated. He was determined to burn Konoha to the ground, so he ran in its direction. And as a result, the Hokage was going to seal him. Drazel moved after the Kyuubi was sealed. He flew in the direction of Minato's body and got inside. Drazel searched but was unable to locate Minato's soul. No matter, Drazel thought, sneering. I have more than enough attacks to carry on the battle because of everyone I've already absorbed. Drazel was correct, too. Despite a human's body being weaker than a Digimon's, the human's limitless abilities more than compensated for the difference. Additionally, Drazel learned hundreds of new genjutsu and ninjutsu while he was in Iwagakure. As the black barrier collapsed, he used one of them to camouflage the Yondaime's body before advancing on the portal to the digital world with the Shunshin. He had mixed feelings about his trip to Konoha. On the one hand, he was unable to pilfer the Yondaime's famed techniques, the Hiraishin and the Rasengan. On the other hand, he did just take one of the strongest people's bodies. The Yondaime Hokage was regarded as one of the fastest shinobi even in the absence of the Hiraishin. Drazel laughed and leapt through the portal to the digital world. I'm not as dead as Alphaman, that idiot, believed. In Naruto's head, Naruto had a completely empty mind prior to the Kyuubi being sealed. It contained nothing but a white void that begged to be filled with knowledge. The Kyuubi turned into a black sewer as soon as the seal for it was activated. The mindscape began to fill with water as if a pipe had burst when the Kyuubi entered. Madara's genjutsu lifted when the Kyuubi materialized in Naruto's mindscape, restoring its ability to think clearly. What happened to me, man? My last memory is of being hauled out of the seal and gazing into Madara Madara. I got another genjutsu from that jerk. I knew that instead of showing him mercy like that moron Hashirama insisted I do, I should have simply killed him. I'm going to kill that Uchiha jerk the next time. RGH. When the Kyuubi growled, it didn't sound like what you would have expected. The fox growl that the world had come to fear didn't sound like this. It sounded more like a beast instead. The growl is more feral and draconic than a typical fox's. He continued to roar and growl in rage, but the Kyuubi ignored it. The fact that his entire body was now covered in armor didn't matter to the Kyuubi. The white helmet that now covered his head didn't bother the Kyuubi. The helmet featured a red, striped white horn. The two cannons on the Kyuubi's shoulder began to emit more heat as the creature flexed its yellowish-orange wings in rage. Since he had spent more than 60 years in this form, the Kyuubi didn't give it any thought. The Kyuubi continued to roar, but after a little while it began to breathe heavily. The Kyuubi calmed himself by closing his eyes and continuing to breathe. The Kyuubi opened his eyes rapidly afterward. As years of battle experience kicked in, he knelt down a bit and assumed a ready fighting stance for his new body. I sense that a Digimon is near, the Kyuubi thought. However, how is that possible? The gate shouldn't have deteriorated at all, and there are only 10 of us present. The Kyuubi shut his eyes and began to focus, sharpening his senses. He became aware that there was something familiar about the Digimon's energy. After giving it some more thought, the Kyuubi's eyes opened. Even more than when he thought of Madara, there was an incalculable amount of hate and malice behind his eyes. Angrily, the Kyuubi muttered, Drazel. A million thoughts began racing through the Kyuubi's head as he felt Drazel approaching him more and more. What on earth brought Drazel to the human world? They're watching the fucking gate, aren't they? In order to swiftly take over baby Naruto's motor abilities and turn his head in the direction of where he sensed Drazel's presence, the Kyuubi used his energy. He saw Drazel in his true form when he looked into baby Naruto's eyes. Drazel's body must have been destroyed by one of the other Digimon. Without the support of an army, that is the only reason he would be here. He's searching for new jutsu or a new body. Many Digimon can be defeated by the humans ninjutsu and genjutsu, but who could he? Oh shit. Baby Naruto was tricked by the Kyuubi into turning to face his father. Drazel would be unstoppable if he managed to acquire the Hiraishin and the Rasengan. Shutting his eyes, the Kyuubi began to control his energy. He grasped Minato Namikaze's soul with his abilities. Then, just avoiding the Shinigami's hand, he dragged Minato into the seal. Minato was placed directly in front of him by him. Minato leapt into a defensive stance with his kunai out as soon as he reached the Kyuubi's cage. Put that kunai away, Namikaze. You're not in any danger, the Kyuubi chuckled. Who, or better yet, what the hell are you? Minato asked. The Kyuubi replied, how the hell can you not know who I am? You were just fighting me not even 1 minute ago. Kyuubi. Where the hell are we? Minato exclaimed, her eyes widening. According to the Kyuubi, we're in the seal that you put on your son. Minato's eyes went wide with surprise. How could I be here? He asked, more to himself than the Kyuubi. I was supposed to be taken by the Shinigami. According to the Kyuubi, I pulled you here. What are you talking about? You pulled me here? Minato asked, his eyes widening. The Kyuubi replied, when you sealed me in this place, I pulled your soul in here too. I was lucky to get you before the Shinigami did. Minato appeared perplexed by that. Why did Kyuubi spare Minato from a lifetime of agony if he was aware of the power of that jutsu? Kyuubi asked Minato, why did you save me? According to the Kyuubi, I did it because your soul was about to be destroyed. Minato said, wouldn't you just like that? With narrowed eyes. The Kyuubi replied, no, not by the Shinigami, by someone else. His name is King Drazel. Drazel can switch bodies, making him damn near impossible to kill. He was about to steal your body, destroy your soul, and drain your mind of all its knowledge. I fought that bastard King Drazel before and you're strong. But your physical prowess is surpassed by your knowledge. The things you know are things that King Drazel would use to destroy my homeworld. So I had to take your soul and put it in here with me so that Drazel wouldn't have your knowledge or your jutsu. Minato replied, what world? You 9 demons have been living here, terrorizing my world since it was created. It made the Kyuubi laugh. He stated, you humans have to stop listening to fairy tales. I am no demon. Oh really? Then what are you? Minato snapped. The Kyuubi responded, I'm what's called a Digimon. Digimon is a combination of the words digital and monster. We Digimon live in a world parallel to yours. The 2 worlds are separated by a barrier. That barrier makes sure that no Digimon can come to the human world, and that no human can come in the digital world. When humans saw our power, they believed us Biju to be demons since they couldn't understand our power. Minato's eyes narrowed. His instinct told him to believe the Kyuubi, but he didn't. And a very long time ago, he discovered how to trust his instincts. He continued, so if Digimon couldn't cross over into our world, how are you here? The Kyuubi replied, we temporarily lowered the barrier so the 10 of us could get through. After we got through, they immediately put the barrier up to full strength again. Minato went on to ask more questions. Why are you here? He asked. The Kyuubi stated, ever since we were created, me and the rest of the Biju have been dedicated to protecting the digital world and everyone in it. Over time, the human world and the digital world became linked. What that means is that if the human world is destroyed or weakened in any way, the same would happen to the digital world. Because of that, the duties of the Biju became protecting the human world also. I and the rest of the Biju have spent most of our lives going in between the worlds. What do you mean? You've been going in between the worlds? Minato asked, interrupting the story. Yes, we always have been. Ever since we were the Devas, the Kyuubi remarked. The Devas? What the hell is that? We came to the human world in search of a Digimon named Calamon, who had a gem in his body that could evolve all the Digimon in the digital world into their strongest forms. After capturing him and returning him to our master had Calamon use his power to evolve all the Digimon to their strongest forms. The rest of the Biju and I were once a group of Digimon called the Devas. We served the sovereign of the South Quadrant of the digital world. Then, every Digimon and human joined together to defeat a threat to my world and yours, called the D-Reaper. What was the D-Reaper? Minato asked. The D-Reaper was a monster, plain and simple, the Kyuubi declared. Its sole intent was to spread and obliterate. It lived in the digital world at first, burrowing beneath its crust. Unexpectedly, however, the D-Reaper began to grow. It continued to expand, consuming everything in its path. Calamon was required to transform every Digimon into its most powerful fighting form. The D-Reaper, however, was too powerful for them. Before we stopped it, the entire digital world was absorbed, and the human world was all but destroyed. Regretfully, the D-Reaper was only a half step away from achieving its objective. It destroyed most of the humans and nearly all of the Digimon. The planets were left in ruins and devastation. Minato was captivated by the story, which he had never heard of before. If Minato had come from any other background, he would have dismissed it as a fantasy, but something in the way the Kyuubi recounted the story convinced Minato that he was telling the truth. What happened after that? There wasn't much we could do, Kyuubi stated. We were unable to restore the lives of the deceased. To the best of our abilities, we were able to reset the worlds to their pre-D-Reaper state. The issue with it is that many powerful Digimon's Digicore would have to be used to initiate the resetting process. Hold on a second. What is a Digicore? A Digicore can be thought of as a Digimon's soul. It includes all of the Digimon's information. It is possible to kill a Digimon and have them reincarnate as long as their Digicore remains intact. Anyway, let's get back to the narrative. To reset the worlds, the 5 sovereigns of the digital world sacrificed their Digicores, but it was insufficient. To reset the worlds, we Devas used every last bit of our strength, but we still required more. Therefore, 2 of the Devas sacrificed their Digicores to begin the process in order to make up the difference. The worlds were restored to the point where it seemed as though the D-Reaper had never attacked, despite the fact that none of the Digimon and humans who perished were reborn. That allowed us to repopulate. We Devas that survived were changed. When the resetting process started, our Digicores were changed and we gained new bodies. Along with new bodies came new powers. We dated to retire our old group name in honor of our friends who sacrificed themselves. So the Devas were gone, and in their place rose the Ancient Warriors. I ceased to be whatever the hell my diva name was, and I became Ancient Greymon, the Ancient Warrior of Fire. These new bodies had many different forms that were used to appeal to the 2 different types of Digimon. According to the Yondaime, what 2 types? Humanoid and Beast. We had one form that made us appear to be humanoid Digimon, another that made us appear to be beasts, and the final one that was our true form. We safeguarded the digital world and made sure that no conflicts arose, but eventually one did, and it was a Digimon called Luciman, Ancient Greymon stated. The humanoids and beasts were at war in the beginning. It appeared to go on forever, but Luciman intervened and put an end to it. People chose to worship Luciman as a result, and they asked him to rule the digital world. Everything was fine at first, but after a while, he began to think of himself as superior to the other Digimon. He began to treat other Digimon as servants and as trash. The human world was his next target. We had to intervene when he attempted to invade and conquer the human world. We sealed him in the middle of the digital world and kicked his ass. However, we lost the majority of our Digicores in that battle in addition to our bodies. All of our Digicores were reduced to tiny pieces. The 3 celestial Digimon, the next rulers of the digital world, eventually gathered the pieces of our souls. Unfortunately, the system of ruling was flawed. There were 2 humanoid Digimon and 1 beast Digimon. The beast Digimon, Cherubimon, was tempted by the whispers of Luciman into believing that the other 2 celestial Digimon were plotting against him. Cherubimon eventually went rogue, which was the worst-case scenario since he alone held the soul fragments of half of the Ancient Warriors. He rallied the beast-type Digimon against the other 2 celestial Digimon. Even worse, he won. Before he could capture the other celestial Digimon, they hid our fragments across the entire digital world. He imprisoned one of them, named Ophanimon, in his castle. He sealed the other, named Seraphimon, in Seraphimon's castle. What happened after that? Minato asked, becoming even more engrossed in the tale. And Ancient Greymon went on. Ophanimon managed to break into the human world's systems and get in touch with the humans to ask for assistance. 6 teenagers were eventually called upon to save our world, and with their assistance, we were able to regenerate the lost parts of our Digicores and reform our bodies. The humans found the soul fragments that Ophanimon and Seraphimon had in their possession, and even better, they took some from Cherubimon to use. They fused their souls with ours and helped us save our world from Cherubimon and Luciman, the one who was actually pulling the strings. After hundreds of years of conflict, famine, and plagues, your world was nearly lifeless. Those who survived learned how to use chakra after your world recovered. Eventually, they became the elemental nation's people. Then a Digimon called King Drazel appeared. Since he can jump bodies, no one knows what his original form was, but we do know that when he visits a body, he destroys the original inhabitant's digicore and drains it of knowledge. The guy renamed himself after Yggdrasil, the overseer of the digital world, because he believed he was a god, that he was superior to everyone else, and that he could enslave and rule over everyone. We ancient warriors had the opportunity to take a fucking break at that point. The digital world was now guarded by a different group of Digimon known as the Royal Knights. In case more Digimon attempted to cross here, we 10 warriors were sent here. We were instructed to replicate the animal life's bodies here. People would be even more alarmed if they saw our original forms here. With a perplexed expression, Minato uttered, "More? The Hachibi is a hybrid of an octopus and an ox. Can you guys get any more bizarre? Consider a volcano that has arms, legs, and a head," said Ancient Greymon in a deadpan tone. You all refer to the Biju as Shukaku, but that was its true form. With a sheepish expression, Minato uttered, "Ooh, now I get it. So this Drazel douche wants to destroy and enslave everyone all because he can switch bodies," Minato went on. "That jerk. You're telling me," the ancient warrior said with a smile. "Drazel attempted to take my body before we were born. I managed to withstand him, and then, out of pure rudeness, I ruined his body. However, I believe that bastard will return soon. He most likely went to the digital world to carry on the battle." "Is there any way we can stop him?" Minato asked. "Not without me being out of the seal," said Ancient Greymon. "But since I'm sealed, that can't happen right now." "What does it mean if Drazel is able to overcome the barrier?" Minato asked. "That implies that Drazel is aware of the location of one of the world's portals," said Ancient Greymon. "More portals will appear as the barrier between our two worlds becomes weaker. Only a single portal is opened and only weaker Digimon can pass through when the barrier is at its strongest. He will probably be attempting to take this world for himself by weakening the barrier. When that moment arrives, we must be prepared." With a perplexed expression, Minato uttered, "How can we fight? We're confined here." "Who said that we were going to fight?" the Digimon asked. "We'll need your son to defend us. We also need the assistance of the other guys. We must protect this planet." "I guess I can't get a fucking break, not even in death," Minato sighed. "But why do you appear in the seal in your Digimon form rather than your Biju form?" Minato asked. "Well, our digicores are sealed when we Biju are sealed," the Digimon stated. "I always remain in my ancient warrior form when I'm sealed because we Digimon can make our digicore look like the form we have." "But why didn't Kushina tell me anything about this?" Minato asked. With a shrug, Ancient Greymon remarked, "Probably because she was unaware. In the seal, she never came to see me. She actually forgot she had me sealed inside her most of the time. Why, in your opinion, did she wait until she was 4 months pregnant to tell you?" At last, Ancient Greymon yawned loudly and uttered, "Minato, why am I suddenly feeling drowsy?" "That's one of the seal's characteristics," Minato stated. "It was intended to place you in a state of hibernation until my son turns 12. "Why 12? It asked. "I hope my son will have a good sense of right from wrong by the time he is 12, Minato stated. "The village will raise him properly, I'm sure of it. In my will, I requested that they do so." "Minato, do you really think that they will follow that?" Ancient Greymon sighed sorrowfully. "I've spent years in this world. I do understand that people are afraid of things that are stronger than themselves. Your son will be shunned and abandoned because I was sealed in him." "No, he will not," Minato said. "I believe in my village." "That faith won't help your son," the warrior of fire said in a dejected tone. "This is something I've seen before. He will be kept apart. If that occurs, you'll be able to say, 'I told you so,' won't you?" Minato said. "And when that day comes, I probably won't want to say it." Ancient Greymon yawned again and lay down, prepared to sleep, and the Kyuubi fell asleep. "The seal must be making me sleepy too. Oh well, I don't have anything better to do. I hope to Kami I'm right, for your sake, Naruto." Minato and Ancient Greymon fell into a deep sleep that they wouldn't emerge from for more than 10 years after they had finished looking at each other. Having just become a shinobi, caught a traitorous teacher, and saved the Forbidden Scroll of Seals, Naruto was on his way to a training ground, ready to begin his training to become a shinobi. It was a happy moment for him, but he knew that it was only the beginning. He was now a shinobi, one of the most feared and respected positions in the world, with the daimyos of the elemental nations being the only people more revered than shinobi. Passing the genin test was the first step into a whole new world, and he knew that he had a reputation to live up to, that the amount of training he had done before would be nothing compared to the amount he would have to do now to achieve his goal of Hokage, and that he would have to regularly work his body until he passed out in order to be a good shinobi. He heard an explosion somewhere in the village when he was nearly there. "I'm a shinobi now. I'm supposed to investigate these kinds of things," he thought, overcoming his initial impulse to flee. With that attitude, Naruto ran to the location where he heard the explosion, where he saw a number of shinobi already present and more arriving every second. Based on what Naruto could make out, a building collapsed during the explosion, and as they waited for the smoke to clear, they noticed two enormous beings standing there. Naruto and a few other Junin were standing on the roof of a building next to the one they had destroyed, and they were eye level with the creatures. One of the creatures resembled a T-Rex with stronger arms. It was primarily red, but its torso was white, and it had black stripes on its arms, thighs, and snout. It had 3 fingers and 3 toes, each of which ended in sharp claws. It had blue eyes and sharp, pointed teeth. It had a gleam in its eyes as it gazed at the ninja, as though it were eyeing its next meal. And, lastly, it had green spikes extending from the back of its head to the end of its tail. Type Tyrannomon into Digimon.wikia.com. The second creature resembled a dark and twisted version of the first. It was black with red stripes on its body, and instead of having a flabby belly like the first, it had muscles lining its entire wide torso. The animal's feet had shorter claws than their hands, which had shiny claws with metal plates covering the tips. Its wrists and claws were wrapped in brown leather belts, and its back had spikes that looked more fierce than the first. Type Dark Tyrannomon into Digimon.wikia.com. The two monsters stood side by side, glancing at the ninja before exhaling deeply and exhaling again while shouting, "Blaze Blast." A huge blast that resembled a flamethrower erupted from their throats, and the attacks sailed forward, striking 3 buildings each, engulfing them in a blaze of fire. Glancing around, Naruto saw a Junin in green spandex sprint forward at the beasts, and he leapt off the building and yelled, "Dynamic entry." The red creature stepped back slightly from the pain of the spandex, wearing Junin's kick, but it recovered quickly and easily. As the Junin was falling toward the ground, the creature reared its left claw back and screamed, "Slash Claw." In a spectacular display of skill, the Junin flipped and landed on his feet as the creature's claws began to emit a yellow light as they descended towards the green Junin. Then, he began to run, barely avoiding the claws, and when he noticed that the red creature was struggling to get its claws out of the ground, he jumped on its arm and ran up it to reach the creature's snout once more. Great Leaf Whirlwind, and gave the red creature a kick to the face, but it only seemed to irritate it. As the black creature attempted to attack the Junin, he leapt off and landed on the ground, using the same slash claw attack as the red creature, but it was slower. The green Junin easily sidestepped to avoid the attack, then leapt towards the black creature's face, planting his fist in its snout, causing the creature to step back in pain. The red monster attempted to hit the Junin while he was in the air, but he was only able to survive thanks to the assistance of another ninja, who shouted, "Fire Style! Grand Fireball Jutsu!" The red creature moved its hand to block the attack, but the attack succeeded in distracting it, and it did little damage other than smashing the creature in the head. When the green Junin was safely delivered to the tops of the buildings, a ninja with his headband covering one of his eyes took that as his turn to fight the creatures. The one-eyed Junin began doing hand seals, and when he was done, he yelled out, "Lightning Style! Lightning Dragon Jutsu!" It was the black creature that blocked the path and swatted the green Junin away. The sky suddenly darkened, and then a gained lightning bolt, shaped like a dragon, came down from the clouds and struck the two monsters, causing them to yell and collapse to their knees from the pain. Naruto released a breath he didn't realize he was holding, not thinking that would work, as he watched the two monsters fall. Naruto and the other ninja were both shocked by what transpired next. The two creatures got back up, with minor burn marks on their bodies but otherwise unharmed, and used Junin to turn their gaze towards the Raiden, but they were unable to attack before another ninja next to them yelled, "Suiden! Suiryuden no Jutsu!" A mass of water rose up from a nearby stream and blasted in the direction of the creatures, transforming into a dragon as it went, smashing into both of them, knocking them into each other and sending them falling. When the Suiryuden no Jutsu struck the monsters, the remaining ninja took that moment to attack, and soon the two creatures were in the middle of a hail of taijutsu using shinobi and kunai raining down on them. The only issue was that the creature's skin was extremely hard, so not much could harm them. Naruto created a ton of clones to attack and support them, and when the ninja ran out of kunai or shuriken, the cage bunshin changed into kunai, which the ninja would then throw at the monsters. Additionally, if a ninja was injured by the monster's claws or their tails, Naruto's clones would arrive and rescue them. While many of Naruto's clones were collaborating with other shinobi, one was acting alone and attacking them, but it didn't seem to accomplish much. The clone cursed aloud and looked up to see that he was near the red monster's belly. The black and red monsters were busy fending off the numerous jutsus and the attack the ninja gave, so the clone thought, it's distracted. Maybe I can find a weakness. As he looked at the red monster's belly, he noticed something. The kunai there barely drew blood, but the blood was leaking much more at the red monster's belly. Having an epiphany, Naruto's clone charged forward with his own kunai, pulled it back, and stabbed it into the red monster's belly with all his might, causing the monster to roar in agony and kick the clone, knocking him out of existence. While this was going on, Naruto and his army of clones were helping a fallen ninja when he suddenly developed a slight headache. He looked around and noticed that the monster was bleeding from its stomach, and as he ran around the monsters, he noticed that the most blood was coming from the monster's belly, even though it didn't have many kunai there. Naruto's eyes widened in shock, and he exclaimed, its gut is its weak spot. Before heading toward the Cyclops Junin and the Spandex Junin, not knowing their names, and shouting, Mega Fuzzy Brows. Cyclops. Hello. What the hell is this kid's problem? Said the ninja, glancing in Naruto's direction. Naruto rushed toward them and uttered, the red monster. Its stomach is a weakness. It appeared to have been severely injured when I had a cage bunshin stab it in the stomach. I know how I'm going to remove that one. Junin, the Cyclops, was about to dismiss Naruto's ideas as nonsense when he turned to face the red monster's stomach, where he saw that there was a lot of blood oozing from it. He then turned to face the Spandex clad Junin and remarked, Naruto's right, guy. Take a look. More blood is leaking from its stomach than from any other part of it. Looking at the creature's abdomen, the Spandex Junina, whom Naruto now knew was named Gaia, said, You were right, my eternal rival. What are you going to do, young boy? I could divert it with my cage bunshin, and when its abdomen is exposed, Mega Brows could kick him in the stomach, Naruto stated. Cyclops could then employ the Lightning Dragon Jutsu once more. It's worth a shot, Guy said, glancing at the other Junin. Nothing else has been effective. All right, Naruto, give us the distraction, and we'll give you the pain, said Cyclops Junin. My name is Kakashi, not Cyclops, by the way. And my name is Meta Guy, not Mega Fuzzy Brows. Guy then snapped back. With his hands raised, Naruto exclaimed, Okay, I got it. The cage bunshins all pulled out kunai and began striking the red monster wherever they could, all over the monster's body, but because he was carrying 8,000 extra pounds of weight, most of it focused on its head and shoulders, which caused the monster to fall on his back, dispelling a lot of the cage bunshin. Naruto looked at the red monster, and then he made 100 of them. They all jumped in unison, covering the battlefield in shadows. You do the math if Naruto weighs 80 pounds and we assume that the shadow clones weigh the same as their creator. Sweating, Kakashi said in a deadpan voice, this was his diversion? But Guy had already moved, so his thought was ignored. He leapt high in the air, aiming for the red monster's belly, and then fell, putting all of his weight on his right foot and pulling his left leg back. He yelled, Dynamic Impact, and pushed chakra into his foot. After driving his foot into the monster's abdomen, Guy leapt back and exclaimed, Now, Kakashi. As soon as Guy informed him, Kakashi began performing hand seals at an extremely high speed. Naruto had just escaped the red monster's body when Kakashi completed the jutsu, and he exclaimed, Lightning Style, Lightning Dragon Jutsu. The black creature was the only one standing when the smoke from the attack cleared, and the red creature was on its back, reeling in agony, as the jutsu charged forward, tearing through the sky with ferocity, and struck the red monster in its belly. The only sounds were the monsters yelling and the lightning striking the monster. When Naruto noticed that the black creature was distracted, he leapt on top of the building nearest to the monster and then leapt to its head. After removing 2 kunai and hurling them, both of them became lodged in one of the monster's eyes, and the black creature began to scream in agony at the kunai. Kakashi turned to face Naruto and remarked, Nice job, Naruto. He remarked, Wow, Naruto is really good at improvising. His plan was a little juvenile and not as well thought out as a usual plan, but it still got results, and he crippled the second one by himself. Naruto would make a great shinobi one day because of how well he thinks on his feet, provided he ever learns to shut up. Kakashi was startled out of his daze when he noticed the red creature on one knee, rising. Taking advantage of this, he performed the 3 hand seals to his sole original jutsu, and then a ring of lightning encircled him, leaping from the ground to his hand in the shape of a tiny orb. Kakashi exclaimed, Rakery. After leaping from the building in the direction of the red creature, Kakashi turned his focus to the black creature and buried the lightning blade in its belly, causing it to roar in agony as he pulled his hand back. The ninja began aiming their ninjutsu at the black creature, forgetting about the red one, and eventually brought it to its knees. Naruto looked around and saw that the other ninja were mostly okay, that fewer and fewer ninja needed to be saved, and that they would likely win this battle. However, the monsters received some backup before the final blow could be delivered. In one spot, the sky suddenly began to darken. It was small at first, but it quickly expanded into a circle, which was easily 20 meters across. Suddenly, flakes began to rise up, as if the sky were breaking into a million tiny pieces, and when the circle was gone, a large dark green cyclone was visible. Another creature descended through the cyclone, kicking up a lot of dirt and causing a loud boom as it hit the ground, despite the fact that the impact seemed to hurt like hell. The ninja finally got a good look at the creature as the dirt settled. It was about 6 feet larger than the first one, but it had the same body shape, with very dark gray skin that had more red stripes than the other two combined. It had claws like the red monster, the same blue eyes and green spikes, and a red X scar on its chest. As the creature descended, the black circle began to reassemble itself, and the dark patch began to close again, until the sky appeared normal. The black creature turned to face the monster, knelt down, and uttered the words, "Master Tyrannomon." "On your feet, Tyrannomon, Dark Tyrannomon," said the new creature, who was identified as Master Tyrannomon. "We have tasks to complete. This world must be ours for our master." Tyrannomon was nearly dead and was unable to rise, but Dark Tyrannomon, the black creature, managed to do so after nearly 3 falls. Master Tyrannomon snarled and uttered the words, "Pathetic. You two couldn't beat some dreadful people. How are you able to live together? Whatever. Zen recuperation." Master Tyrannomon's words caused a green aura to glow over Tyrannomon and Dark Tyrannomon. The monster's wounds were healing in front of the ninja's eyes, and all the damage caused by their attacks was being undone. The mass of kunai that impaled their bodies was falling out, any open wounds stopped bleeding and closed up, and the monster's burns and dirt marks began to disappear. When Naruto realized what was happening, he leapt at Master Tyrannomon, drew a kunai, and was about to stab him in the head, but Master Tyrannomon saw him coming and turned his hand to bring the 3 claws together, catching Naruto. Naruto thanked God in silence, knowing that he could have died rather than been caught. The Grey Tyrannomon said, "Who is this human?" Tyrannomon stated, he was primarily responsible for this. He threw knives into Dark Tyrannomon's eye and informed them of my weakness. "Such a little boy causing so much trouble," growled Master Tyrannomon. He flung Naruto into the air and exclaimed, "Master Claw. We'll have to change that." When Master Tyrannomon's claws began to glow, the Grey Tyrannomon jutted his blades out and impaled Naruto with them. The middle claw's tip went through Naruto's abdomen and out of his back, but the outer 2 claws missed. Naruto was in so much pain that he was unable to endure it, so Master Tyrannomon threw him to a building and stood there by himself, saying, "Fire on him, now." Tyrannomon and Dark Tyrannomon took deep breaths and were pleased to comply. Tyrannomon and Dark Tyrannomon exclaimed, "Blaze blast." "Master Fire!" shouted Master Tyrannomon. Luckily for the village, the civilians had already been evacuated from the area when the 3 attacks collided and created a fire that not only struck Naruto but also burned the building he was on and the 2 buildings behind him. The other ninja looked at the attack site and saw that all of Naruto's clothes were burned off, his skin was charcoal black, and his hair was burned off. Even the newest genin watching knew that Naruto wouldn't recover from a wound like that. Naruto screamed in agony, feeling every cell of his skin burning, and he smelled the smell of burnt flesh. He could feel the pain as his skin was dying by the second. When Kakashi saw that, he looked at the creatures with a hateful expression on his face. He knew that Naruto was his sensei's son, and he liked him. He had vowed to protect him with his life on his sensei's grave. He would have adopted Naruto, but the Konoha Council said that he was too young to raise a child because he was 13 and in Anbu at the time, so instead he offered his entire Anbu squad to protect Naruto when he was a child. He promised his sensei that he would take care of his son, but his sensei just stood by and did nothing. With lightning trailing behind him, he jumped forward, yelling, "Double Rakery!" He began performing hand seals, extending both of his hands, and as lightning began to charge up in each of them, he heard 1,000 chirping birds emanating from the 2 spheres of lightning. Both attacks were driven into Master Tyrannomon's head by Kakashi, piercing the skin and causing a great deal of blood to flow out. But Master Tyrannomon managed to shake Kakashi off its head despite the pain, saying, "Tyrannomon, destroy these pitiful creatures." The Tyrannomon then began to attack all the ninja in their immediate vicinity, and although Kakashi managed to avoid it, he was still troubled by the fact that he had just lost his last relationship with the person who had become his second father. In Naruto's head, something was waking up in the sewer Naruto dubbed his mindscape. A deep rumbling came from behind a gate, which had a small metal square that read, seal on it, and the bars went up forever. You could hear something moving behind the gate, and then something came from under the light. It was big, really big. It stood on 4 legs, was clad in armor from head to toe, and had 2 claws on its feet. It had circles on its armor on its feet and 2 front knees, and it had what appeared to be 2 cannons mounted there. Its shoulders were covered in yellow armor, and it had a white helmet on its back knees. He was wearing a dark green Junin vest, black pants with kunai holsters, black sandals, and a white trench coat with red flames on the bottom and the kanji for Yandaimi Hokage and Wolf Fire on it. The person standing next to the seal had bright blonde hair like Naruto and blue eyes like him, but his eyes were blazing with fire and demanded authority. Where the hell am I? The last thing I remember is fighting the Kyuubi. How the hell did I end up in a sewer? The man asked himself as he looked around and discovered that he was in some sort of sewer. As he began to wake up more, he began to recall his conversation with the Kyuubi prior to the seal taking effect and sending him to sleep. The man noticed something moving in the seal's darkness and, drawing on his years of experience as a ninja, he moved out of the way just as the enormous creature approached. The creature simply glanced at Minato and said, "What's up, Minato?" According to Minato, Ancient Greymon, "How long have we been out of it, do you know?" Ancient Greymon said, "Well, you said we'd be out of it for 12 years, so your boy must have turned 12 sometime soon. Now what do we do?" Minato asked. Old Greymon. Turning around, Minato saw that Ancient Greymon had his eyes closed. Minato said, "What's the matter?" "I'm feeling really negative right now," the former Biju stated. "Like one of those that could kill you. However, I'm confined here. What could be threatening me?" After a moment of contemplation, Minato turned to the Digimon and exclaimed, "What if it's not your life that's in danger, but..." "The boy," Minato stated, "we need to find a method to determine whether or not we were correct." "Hold up a second," the Digimon said. There, the outside world was shown through Naruto's eyes in front of the 2 creatures on the wall, but they were unable to see much because it was entirely orange. After a minute, the orange faded, revealing the 3 creatures that were wreaking havoc on the village. "What the hell are those things that are tearing Konoha apart?" the blonde man asked. "Tyrannomon is the red one," said Ancient Greymon. "The dark Tyrannomon of the black one. And Master Tyrannomon is the one with the muscles. Another Digimon must have sent them here. Additionally, if they were transmitted, that implies a..." Minato completed Ancient Greymon's sentence, saying, "The barrier has been broken." "No, not yet, Minato," said Ancient Greymon. "It is so weak that only champions and possibly ultimate Digimons can defeat it. This world is fucked royally, I assure you, if the barrier ever breaks completely." The ancient warrior's words caused Minato to relax, but something Ancient Greymon said confused him. "What's this champion and ultimate stuff?" the man asked, looking at Ancient Greymon. "Does that resemble a rank?" "Yes and no," said Ancient Greymon. "They resemble phases in the life of a Digimon. Every Digimon goes through 2 infant stages. Digimon advances through them by being raised properly and remaining alive for a predetermined period of time. Then there are the champion, Mega, Rookie, and Ultimate levels. Mega is the strongest, and Rookie is the weakest. The ranks of ninjas are similar to those 4. We don't have enough time for me to go over the other sublevels. While these 3 are a good team, they aren't that strong. If they were, the city would have been turned to rubble as soon as they got there. But still, we have to help Naruto fight them. Without Master Tyrannomon there, they might have stood a chance. But Master Tyrannomon can heal his allies, so they don't stand a snowball's chance in hell. If we don't do anything, all those people will die." Minato turned back to the screen and remarked, "But there's gotta be something we can do." Ancient Greymon said, "There is something we can do. I've fought with and against many Digimon in my time, and from those Digimon, I learned how to do some of their attacks. I can implant the information of the attacks in Naruto's brain so he can do them too. Also, some of the spoils of my battles were weapons that I can give him. He's gonna need them anyway." The man's eyes grew wide with astonishment and then slightly closed in contemplation. His son would most likely lose what little innocence he still possesses if he consented to this. His son will die if he doesn't. Life, innocence, life, innocence. It took him 1/000th of a second to think before he said, "Okay, but I don't like this idea." The Digimon replied, "Neither do I, Minato. But it's either he does this now, or we all die. I'll get started." Ancient Greymon began to meditate after closing his eyes. His vitality began to waver all around him. It eventually stopped. "It's time. Are you ready, Minato? Said Ancient Greymon. It's now or never. Do it, Minato sighed. Ancient Greymon focused his energies on Naruto. A white sword suddenly gleamed from outside the cage as he closed his eyes in concentration. After rising into the air, the sword began to glow white. Minato and the Digimon's cage were completely engulfed by the white light. Minato muttered to himself, Naruto, make me proud. After the sword vanished, Ancient Greymon and Minato sensed that Naruto's body had returned to normal. In the actual world, outside, Naruto was also engulfed by the light emanating from Ancient Greymon's cage. Naruto sensed that the power within him was healing him. His entire body was blackened and charred before the light struck him. Breathing became painful due to the extreme pain. However, he felt all of his energy return after the light caught him. He sensed his clothes returning as well. Naruto got up and began examining himself. There were no rips in his clothing. His skin had returned to its natural hue. He recovered. What on earth went wrong? I know I died. How am I still here, though? He felt something in his left hand as he turned to face his surroundings. There was a huge white sword there when he looked at it. He was as tall as the sword. He could fit both of his hands on the handle. It was a 4-foot blade. The cross guard turned straight up after exiting at a 45-degree angle from the blade on each side. The sides of the blade were adorned with runes. Naruto sensed the blade's pulsing power. Despite its seemingly heavy appearance, the sword was incredibly light. In his hands, it felt right, too. As if he owned the sword. Naruto experimented with the sword for a while and discovered that his left hand felt more comfortable holding it. Naruto searched his surroundings for the source of the sword. Where the hell did this thing come from? He asked himself. Naruto searched for a minute more but found nothing. Naruto shrugged and said, oh well, finders keepers, losers weepers, rather than worrying anymore. Rising, Naruto leapt to the top of the closest structure. He finally realized what he was doing before he nearly died when he reached the summit. The village was attacked by some monsters. Naruto turned to face the monsters and said, we couldn't stop them. They destroyed everything in their path and appeared to have risen about 300 feet. With a snarl of rage, Naruto leapt away while holding the sword. Naruto saw the Tyrannomon and the ninja engaged in combat after a few minutes of building hopping. As he followed, he noticed how many ninja were killed in the battle. He didn't know any of them, but he made a silent vow to exact revenge on anyone he saw, or risk dying trying. Naruto saw the devastation when he arrived. It was evident that the ninja were growing weary, and the Tyrannomon were not stopping. Naruto was aware that his house would be destroyed unless he took action. That's when he decided to do it. He let out a battle cry and rushed forward. The runes on the blade began to glow as he charged forward. Raising himself higher than he knew he could, he plunged the full blade into Tyrannomon's head. Tyrannomon did not listen to Naruto's battle cry, even though he heard it. They had dealt with him directly, and none of them had hurt him after that blonde kid. He was mistaken, boy. With his sword drawn, Naruto descended and slashed Tyrannomon in the back of the head. The blade sank through with ease. Then, sprinting ahead, Naruto dragged it through Tyrannomon's head. Then he leapt, twisted in midair, and landed on top of a building near the battleground. Many people took notice of what he did. They were only able to scratch the monsters with all of their attacks. Now that Naruto has that strange sword, he attacks one of them with a lot of damage. It was astounding and breathtaking. Kakashi shouted, Naruto, and leapt to where Naruto was as soon as he saw what had happened. He stated, Naruto, you're alright. I thought you died in that fire attack. Naruto replied, that makes two of us. I thought I died too. Buddha, some light flashed, and all of a sudden, I was healed. I don't know what happened, but I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. When I woke up, I found this sword next to me and I took it. Kakashi responded, okay then Naruto. It seems that for some reason, that sword can damage these monsters. Give it to me. I'm more experienced with a sword than you are. With a, okay, response, Naruto threw the sword to the former Anbu agent. Kakashi saw it when he did. Kakashi fell as his hands fell to the ground. The pain in his fingers was unbearable. Quickly, he said, Naruto, pick up the sword quick. It's crushing my fingers. After picking up the sword, Naruto was going to assist Kakashi in standing up when he noticed Tyrannomon approaching. He stated, Kakashi, you have to get up. One of the monsters is coming this way. Kakashi did, and Tyrannomon's Blaze Blast attack was barely avoided by the two. Upon landing on a different structure, Kakashi remarked, Naruto, how can you lift that? It weighs a ton. After giving Kakashi a sharp look, Naruto remarked, what are you talking about? This thing is practically weightless. It weighs a lot to others, but it's weightless to me, Kakashi reflected. How is that possible? Is it a defensive mechanism that he alone can use? It isn't possible. For that, you would need to apply a unique seal to the sword, and Naruto is not familiar with either Kenjutsu or Fuinjutsu. Previously, it had to be placed there. But why is Naruto able to lift it at this moment if that is the case? Kakashi reached an agreement and was disappointed. Naruto, it seems that something about this sword makes it so that only you can wield it. And so far, it's the only thing we know of that does significant damage to these monsters. I know this seems like a lot to put on your shoulders, but you could possibly be the only one who can damage these creatures enough to save the village. You have to kill them. Understand? Naruto gave himself a small smile before making a mock salute with his hand to his head. Sir, yes sir, he said, immediately leaping for the Tyrannomon. He kept his sword ready to slash as he glided toward Tyrannomon. Taking advantage of gravity, he brought it down on Tyrannomon's belly and slashed it all the way down to the ground. When Naruto performed what would have been a cesarean section on Tyrannomon, he roared in agony. Naruto continued after that. He leapt back up and cut the Tyrannomon's arm. After landing on a nearby structure, he launched another assault. He repeated this repeatedly. He struck the back of its knees, its head, and its tail. He hit Tyrannomon a crucial point with each pass. A few blows later, he knocked Tyrannomon to its knees, causing it to wince in agony. He believed it was over. He heard Tyrannomon exclaim, "Blaze Blast!" just as he was ready to move on to Dark Tyrannomon. Naruto was the target of the attack. Unprepared, Naruto was blasted by it. However, he raised the white sword in a weak defense before it struck. Although the sword stopped much of the attack, Naruto was still severely injured. Leaping forward, Naruto struck Tyrannomon in the head with the sword. From the top of Tyrannomon's nose to the base of its jaw, he cut it deeply. As Naruto advanced on Dark Tyrannomon, Tyrannomon let out a painful scream. 1 down, 2 to go, Naruto thought as he launched an attack on Dark Tyrannomon. But Dark Tyrannomon was prepared for him. Dark Tyrannomon turned to face Naruto as he leapt for him, shouted, "Blaze Blast," and slapped Naruto. Naruto was unable to avoid the attack because he was in the air. The assault proceeded straight ahead of him. In the mindscape of Naruto, Ancient Greymon and Minato watched this battle in wonder and curiosity. Minato asked, "Where did that sword come from?" as she turned to face Ancient Greymon. Ancient Greymon turned to Minato and said, "That sword belonged to a dear friend of mine. When he was about to die, he gave it to me to hold onto until he could reclaim it. It's called the Omni Sword. It is made out of one of the toughest materials in the digital world called chrome digizoid. It's so sharp that just lightly pressing it to your skin could cause it to bleed." Minato replied, "It must be. I knew Guy before your attack, and back then, he was 13 and could shatter bones with a single kick. He's only gotten stronger, yet he couldn't even do any lasting damage to the Tyrannomon. But the Omni Sword just took one down." Ancient Greymon said, "My friend was virtually unbeatable with that sword. He faced some of the toughest Digimon with that sword and came out standing. I'm sure that with the small amount of Kenjutsu skills I implanted into Naruto, he'll be able to slice the Tyrannomon up like onions." As Naruto defeated the Tyrannomon, they looked back at the screen. Ancient Greymon noticed something when they saw that Naruto had Dark Tyrannomon in his sights. For a moment, Dark Tyrannomon glanced in their direction and noticed Naruto preparing to charge them. Ancient Greymon took a moment to reflect before he began to charge Naruto with energy. Minato turned to Ancient Greymon and said, "Greymon, what should we?" After Naruto leapt at Dark Tyrannomon and Dark Tyrannomon fired back at him. After manipulating Naruto's cells and creating another weapon in the real world, Ancient Greymon interrupted Minato and said, "Already done." In the actual world, Naruto was unable to avoid the attack when he saw it coming. His right arm started to feel strange just as he was ready to give up. He glanced at his right arm, and suddenly there were tiny white matter particles there. In an instant, they came together to form an odd-looking cannon on his arm. Naruto turned his right arm so that the cannon's mouth faced the attack, acting more instinctively than logically. Naruto shouted out the command to activate the cannon out of instinct. Positron laser. Light purple specks of light began to accumulate in the cannon as soon as Naruto uttered the command. From the cannon, a white beam of energy blasted forward, striking the Dark Tyrannomon's attack. The fire attack was repelled by the laser until it struck Dark Tyrannomon in the head. Naruto momentarily lost his sense of location due to the cannon's appearance and power. Naruto flipped in midair, pushed off a building side, and landed on top of a nearby building after experiencing a strange feeling of vertigo and wind. Naruto had the opportunity to examine his new weapon in greater detail now that he was not being attacked. A strange metallic strap that passed through one side of the cannon, around his arm, and inside the other side was used to secure the cannon to his forearm. It stretched out beyond his forearm after beginning a few inches from his elbow. It had a front opening the size of his fist and was rather bulky. Like the sword, the cannon had strange markings and was white in color. Where are all of these weapons made? Naruto heard a shout before he had time to consider that. Master Tyrannomon was staring at him when he looked up. He stated, "How can you, a puny human, have the strength to wield the weapons of Imperial Dramon when no other Digimon can? Our strongest Digimon tried and failed to use those weapons, yet a weak and feeble human like yourself can wield them. For that disrespect, I'll kill you, and everyone in this accursed village." "Shut the hell up!" shouted Naruto, who leapt at Master Tyrannomon. Naruto swung the gun forward and fired a laser blast. The Grey Tyrannomon was slightly knocked back when the blast struck him in the head. Naruto launched another blast into Master Tyrannomon's abdomen as he hit the ground, further pushing him back. Naruto sprinted over to him, drew his sword, leapt to his feet, and plunged it into Master Tyrannomon's abdomen. Guy leapt from the building he was on and pursued Master Tyrannomon after witnessing what Naruto had done. He drew his foot back and gave it his full attention. Guy yelled, "Great Leaf Whirlwind," and knocked Master Tyrannomon to the ground by kicking him in the head. The ninja surrounding Master Tyrannomon began utilizing whatever jutsu they knew and pointing it at him after noticing that he had been knocked down. Everything was directed at Master Tyrannomon, including water bullets and fireballs. "Wood style. Restraining Vines jutsu," screamed one voice as the Tyrannomon leader was ready to stand up. Huge, dense vines emerged from the ground as soon as the voice shouted that out. Master Tyrannomon was encircled by them and brought to its knees. Naruto saw what had happened and seized the opportunity. He aimed the cannon at the leader and began directing chakra into it. Then, shouting, "Positron laser," Naruto struck the creature in the stomach. Naruto noticed that Master Tyrannomon was heavily bleeding from his stomach after he released the attack. With a shout, Master Tyrannomon ripped through the vines that had held him back. Master Tyrannomon inhaled deeply as it gazed at Naruto with rage in its eyes. Naruto knew what was going to happen because of his experience. He began collecting energy and aimed the laser at Master Tyrannomon. He sensed the laser pulling from his own chakra and airborne particles. Master Tyrannomon and Naruto released their attacks simultaneously, almost as if they were one. "Master Fire!" cried Master Tyrannomon, unleashing a flaming mass of fire. In response, Naruto released his supercharged attack. "Positron laser," he cried. The attacks continued, slamming into each other in the center. Neither Naruto nor Master Tyrannomon yielded to the other's strength, continuing their attacks. They both pushed each other to the limit with equally matched attacks. After battling for 20 seconds, Naruto sensed his chakra reserves deteriorating. Even he couldn't feed the positron laser for that long, despite having a monstrous amount enough to dwarf most Junin. Naruto shouted, "What are you doing just watching? Help me out here," as he glanced at the other ninja nearby. He was approached by the ninja who could hear him. Despite their fatigue and wounds from the fight, Naruto's barrage of attacks provided them with much needed and well-earned rest. They were also successful in obtaining reinforcements. The ninja wanted to return the favor when they heard Naruto's cries for assistance. Finally, they reached him. While some placed their hands on his arm, others placed their hands on the positron laser. All of them simultaneously contributed their chakra to Naruto's attack. Although they were able to repel Master Tyrannomon's attack, they were unable to overcome him. "More! We need to give more!" exclaimed Naruto. Naruto searched deep within himself for as much energy as he could muster. So did the other ninjas in the vicinity. When they maxed out, however, they began to faint because they lacked Naruto's stamina. Before long, their numbers were rapidly declining. Naruto noticed the decline in the number of people. He was aware that they would be somewhat taxed by feeding the laser. Naruto also sensed his remaining strength waning. This, he knew, was it. And since everyone was passed out around him, those who assisted in feeding the laser would now die as well, rather than dying alone. Naruto felt 6 hands touch the laser just as he was ready to surrender to his fate. He saw the faces when he looked up. Among them were Guy and Kakashi. In order to obtain additional reinforcements, they had left the battle a little earlier. A red-eyed woman and a man who might have been the Hokage's son were the other 2 faces. Iruka and Sarutobi were the final 2 faces. Sarutobi was dressed in the black armor he had worn ever since he turned into a ninja. After reaching into his pocket, Sarutobi produced a tiny round ball. He handed it to Naruto and instructed him to eat it. When Naruto did, He felt his energy return right away. In addition to feeling completely rejuvenated, he felt as though he had 100 times more energy than he had previously. Sarutobi said, "Everybody ready?" With a slight smile. He yelled, "Fire!" as they nodded. At that moment, the positron laser was filled with all of the ninja's chakra. The positron laser was thin and roughly the size of Naruto's fist before Sarutobi and the others arrived. However, the attack expanded to the size of Naruto's entire body when Sarutobi and the others put their energy into it. It also helped that Ancient Greymon was transferring some of his chakra to Naruto. The attack proceeded, consuming Master Tyrannomon's blast entirely. In an attempt to help their boss, the other Tyrannomon moved to stand behind Master Tyrannomon and supplemented his fire attacks. Despite their best efforts, the Digimon was unable to match the positron laser's power. Eventually, the laser blast rushed forward and swallowed the three of them. It struck the monsters, and the assault continued. Luckily for them, nothing new was destroyed because it was traveling through the Tyrannomon's path of destruction. When the attack subsided, Master Tyrannomon and the other ninja were huddled together, having thrown all of their energy into it. They began to turn into black silhouettes as their color faded. In the center of them was a ring of something. Eventually, it began to envelop their whole body, resembling a cocoon. With the Omni Sword in his left hand, Naruto advanced. Naruto was unaware that his eyes' blue irises were glowing a light shade of blue. The glow gradually faded until it appeared to be just a shade of blue away from white. Additionally, the glow spread to cover Naruto's whole eye area. The Omni Sword's runes began to glow orange. He stated, "You three have come into my home, wrecked my village, and killed our ninja. I won't let you get away with this." Above the three, Naruto leapt into the air. Then he let gravity take over and aimed the Omni Sword downward. The Omni Sword began to glow bright white, and the runes on it began to glow even brighter. Naruto shouted, "Digicore, purify," as he fell. The ribbons that made up the cocoon began to circle the Omni Sword as it broke through it, eventually entering the green jewel in the crossguard. Eventually, all of the data entered there. The Tyrannomon vanished when it was all absorbed. 3 white egg-shaped objects that rose to the sky were all that remained. A miniature version of the hole in the sky that appeared when Master Tyrannomon appeared above the eggs. The holes closed after the eggs flew up into them. The Omni Sword protruded from Naruto's body as he hit the ground. He grunted and raised the sword again, then threw away all the dirt and blood. Some of the ninja were getting up when he turned around. Every one of them was staring at him in astonishment. The Hokage began to clap after a few seconds. Guy and Kakashi then picked it up. Then a growing number of ninja began to applaud. Suddenly, Naruto was receiving an ovation from the ninja. Naruto noticed the ninja's joyful expressions as he glanced around. The chant, "Na, Ru, Tu, Na, Ru, Tu, Na, Ru, Tu," even reached his ears. He desired to become Hokage for this reason. Instead of glaring at him with anger, he wanted people to smile with joy. The public was now applauding him for what he had done. In order to hide his tears from others, he grinned and looked down. When he looked up to see who it was, Sarutobi, he felt a hand on his shoulder. Sarutobi replied, "Enjoy this praise, Naruto. You've earned it. Today, you saved our entire village." Naruto took a step forward, his smile widening slightly. Now that the fight was over, he no longer needed adrenaline. At last, his body succumbed to his exhaustion. Satisfied that he had saved their village, he rested on the Hokage and fell into blissful unconsciousness. "What do we have to talk about?" Naruto asked, glancing at the Hokage. Ancient Greymon suddenly emerged from the shadows and exclaimed, "What the hell do you think, Naruto? You defeating those 3 Digimon out there?" Naruto's expression was bewildered as he gazed at Ancient Greymon. He didn't know what this creature was, but he thought it wasn't that bad if the Yondaime was okay with turning away from it. His words were, "Digi. What?" The Yondaime replied, "We can hold off on that later. Right now, we've got to talk, Naruto. I'm guessing you know what I had to do the night you were born." When Naruto understood what the Yondaime was discussing, his eyes widened in shock. He had forgotten about the Kyuubi being sealed in him because he was so overcome by the adrenaline from the battle and the surprise of seeing his hero. He had put it on hold ever since he learned about that night, intending to deal with it at a later time. But it all came back to him when he recalled what the Yondaime had been discussing. He walked over to the Yondaime and gave him a straight punch to the jaw. Naruto bowed his head as Minato collapsed to the ground, tears on the verge of spilling. He was so furious that he was unable to function normally. "Why?" he asked in a voice that was lower than usual. With a perplexed expression, the Yondaime asked, "Why what?" Naruto's eyes were watering as he gazed at the Yondaime. He said, Why the hell did you seal that thing in me? Why not Sasuke Uchiha? The Uchiha would have wanted the Kyuubi's power. Why not Ino Yamanaka, or Choji Akamichi, or Shikamaru Nara, or someone from one of the Konoha shinobi clans? They would have been seen as heroes for having that thing sealed in them. Naruto was being listened to by Ancient Greymon. It was Naruto who referred to him as that thing. Squinting, he said, "Hey, I'm right here." Naruto and the Yondaime turned to Ancient Greymon. They uttered, "No one cares," as if they were a single entity. "I left in my will for you to be seen as a hero for holding the Kyuubi, weren't you?" Minato said, turning to face Naruto. Naruto said, "Hell no, I was treated worse than dirt. I was overcharged for everything. I was neglected and teased and insulted for no reason. I was seen as a pariah. Why the hell did you give it to some nameless orphan boy instead of one of the shinobi clans?" The Yondaime's gaze returned to the floor. The hateful expression in Naruto's eyes was too much for him to bear. He stated, "I did Ida because I had to. I couldn't ask someone to give their child up for that. I couldn't ask someone to make a sacrifice that I myself wasn't willing to make." Naruto softened his hateful expression and replaced it with one of perplexity. He replied, "Make a sacrifice that I wasn't willing to make, what are you trying to say?" The Yondaime let out a sigh. He looked Naruto straight in the eye and replied, "I couldn't ask someone to give their son up for that if I wasn't willing to give my own son for it. What I'm trying to say is that I'm your father Naruto. I had to make a huge decision, one that I regret. I'm sorry that that happened to you. You were supposed to be treated as a hero, and I put my faith in the people of this village. Obviously, they didn't follow my last wish. I guess Ancient Greymon gets to say, 'I told you so,' huh? And just like I said before, I don't want to say it," said Ancient Greymon. Even though Naruto was still a little crazy, he saw how miserable his father was when he looked him in the eye. He could see that he was still human in the Yondaime's eyes. He was still in pain. He was still prone to error. He was still able to experience regret and sadness. He was now experiencing all of these things. Naruto was unable to remain angry after witnessing his father's distress over what had transpired. The heart wasn't in him. "So, what are you doing here, Dad? I thought that you were supposed to die because of the sealing. By the way, where is the Kyuubi? I would have thought you would be by his seal," Naruto said, his voice much lower than before. Unaware that he was holding a breath, Minato released it. His son's statement that he detested him was something he half expected. Minato told Naruto everything that transpired during the sealing, saying, "I was supposed to die after the sealing, but something happened." "Is there any way we can stop them?" asked Naruto. "Yes, there is," the Biju replied. "A long time ago, when I and the other ancient warriors were still in the digital world, a group of children visited our world. At that time, Luciman was ravaging it, and those human children combined their souls with the ancient warrior's soul fragments to defeat Luciman and his army. If Naruto fuses his soul with mine, he can use my power to defend this world in my stead." After hearing what the ancient warrior had to say, Minato remarked, "How can Naruto manage this alone?" Sighing, Ancient Greymon remarked, "Who said Naruto would be by himself? We'll get assistance from the other ancient warriors. They would all sacrifice their lives to protect this world, which is why we were sent here. We only need to locate their Jinchuriki or the location where they are sealed. Then we get their assistance. Will you do it, Naruto?" H. How do you know that you have the right person? Naruto stumbled out. "How can you tell if I'm the best candidate for this?" Naruto, what would you do if you saw someone having trouble with something? Said Ancient Greymon. Without giving it any thought, Naruto said, "I'd help them." "Why?" Once more without hesitation, Naruto stated, "Because it's the right thing to do. I would want assistance if I were in his shoes." "What would you do if you witnessed a random woman being raped by a man who was obviously stronger than her?" As Naruto put it, "Help her. What if that continued to occur? How would you respond?" "Continue to assist her," Naruto said. "Why?" the Digimon asked. "Because it's the right thing to do," said Naruto without hesitation. "I don't require any more justification. You're the ideal candidate for this because of this. You stated that you will defend and assist others because it is morally right. Others would insist on a reward or prize. You didn't. I'm confident that you can manage this power because of this." "What will happen to me if I accept this?" asked Naruto. "Not much," said Ancient Greymon. "You have the ability to change into a Digimon at any time. Since fire was my element as an ancient warrior, the Digimon you will eventually be able to change into will be connected to that element. Additionally, you'll be able to use a lot of Digimon's techniques. Additionally, you can use the numerous weapons I still have from my friends whenever you are unable or unwilling to transform into a Digimon. You won't be alone, either, because I have a suspicion that other ancient warriors are doing the same thing with their Jinchuriki. What should I do? Asked Naruto, glancing at the deceased Yondaime. It's your body, the Yondaime said with a shrug. Use it however you like. Remember that I'll be right here by your side. With a deep sigh, Naruto declared, I'll do it. What must I accomplish? Nothing, said Ancient Greymon. I'll take care of it. The Biju began to emit an uncontrollably high amount of heat, so much so that Minato and Naruto began to collapse to the ground from heat stroke. Eventually, the heat subsided and a white light began to shine. Ancient Greymon declared, I'm merged with you now, as the light faded. Your body will gradually become faster and stronger over the course of the following week in order to help it get ready to manage the power you now possess. Have any more inquiries? Recalling what transpired at the conclusion of the fight, Naruto said, I must ask you about that crazy sword. In the end, what in hell did that thing force me to do? I felt as though my body was out of control. That's because I had control over your body, Ancient Greymon said. After living in the human world for years, I began to come up with fresh strategies for defeating malevolent Digimon. They would simply be reincarnated with all of their memories a short time later if you killed them. So, after they were reincarnated, we would prevent them from turning evil. My idea was to open up a Digimon's Digicore and mess around with their fractal code, which was like their DNA. A device, in this case the Omni Sword, would absorb the Digimon's fractal code, find out what turned that Digimon evil, then remove that thing and give the Digimon their fractal code back. That way, if it was something like a virus that was turning the Digimon evil, the virus would be gone and the Digimon would have a bigger chance of becoming a stand-up Digimon. In my spare time here, I modified the Omni Sword to do just that. When you were standing there just watching the Digimon, I realized that that was the best chance I had to test my theory. So, I took control of your body and did it, and I have to say, it worked like a charm. Now, we can do some real damage to that bastard Drazel. After giving a nod, Naruto said, okay then. Good, now go to sleep. You deserve it after what you did today, the ancient warrior said. 6 hours later Naruto awoke 6 hours after the Digimon attack to bright white lights above his head. With a moan, he sat up on the bed. He became aware that he was in a hospital when he saw the room's white walls. After he moaned once more, he muttered to himself, why the hell do they not dim the lights? It gets on my damn nerves whenever I wake up. From next to him, he heard someone laughing. A voice he recognized said, I always try to bring that up with them, but they never listen. Naruto grinned as he turned to the side. Did we win, OG.san? He asked. Naruto's moniker for him made Sarutobi laugh. He replied, yes, Naruto, we did. It was all thanks to you. If you had never discovered the weakness of the Red One, our entire village would be destroyed. Instead, we only have to rebuild a small piece. Also with those weird weapons of yours, you defeated the enemies. You single-handedly killed 3 opponents that our entire ninja force lost against. The entire village is completely in your debt, Naruto. The Hokage's compliments made Naruto smile even more. He stated, don't feel like you owe me anything, OG.san. Although, naming me your successor would kinda make us even. The elderly Hokage laughed at Naruto's little aside. Okay, now we gotta get serious, Naruto. Can you stand? The Hokage said after the laughter subsided. Naruto got out of bed and got to his feet as soon as the Hokage had completed his question. The Hokage replied, great. Grab your clothes and your weapons and get dressed. We need to go to a meeting with the Konoha Council. After gathering his belongings, Naruto dashed into the restroom. He emerged fully clothed. He had the positron laser fixed on his right arm and the Omni Sword in his left hand. All ready, he said. The Hokage approached Naruto and placed his hand on his head. He transported them to his office in the Hokage Tower using the Shunshin no Jutsu. They made their way down the stairs to the council meeting room. The entire Konoha Council of Civians and Shinobi Alakea was waiting for them when they walked into the room. Why am I here? Naruto whispered as he leaned toward the Hokage. A certain pink-haired council member remarked, silence. You will speak when spoken to, demon. The reason you're here is to answer our questions. Naruto shook his head, no, and tapped his arm as the Sandaime narrowed his eyes at the woman. Whether or not she referred to him as a demon didn't really matter to Naruto at this point. The Sandaime chose to retreat after observing Naruto shake his head. Okay then, what questions do you have? Said Naruto. My question is where you found that sword? Asked Kaharu Utatane, one of the Hokage's advisors. Naruto scratched the back of his neck and gave a small laugh. Damn, I'm in deep shit now, he thought. How should I respond to that query? Let me take control of your body for a moment. I'll get you out of this, said Naruto. hearing a voice deeper than his own. A strange expression appeared on Naruto's face, and he thought, "Dad?" "Yeah," Minato replied, "now let me take over." In order to focus, Naruto closed his eyes, then opened them. Although there were no obvious changes, anyone who looked closely enough would notice that Naruto's eyes were a deeper shade of blue than usual. According to Minato, "I found it in the rubble of the building I got smashed into." The Hokage's advisor, Danzo, remarked, "How did you survive that, boy?" Witnesses said they saw your charred body after the monsters breathed fire at you. Through the body of his son, Minato let out a sigh. He stated, "You all know how the Kyuubi's sealed inside me, right?" No one was surprised and they all nodded. Since the Mizuki incident involved a spy, Iruka told them what transpired. He stated, "With the Kyuubi being sealed inside me, I forced him to push his chakra through my entire body to grow what I lost. It took a little bit of time and a little bit of the Kyuubi's chakra, but here I am. I have no idea how the clothes came back though." That made everyone gasp. "I didn't know that the Kyuubi had a power like that," stated Heishi Hyuga, the leader of the Hyuga clan. According to Minato, "There's a lot about the Kyuubi that we don't know. That's why you guys got your asses kicked by him 12 years ago. I think that's why trying to kill him never worked." Moving on. "Where did the second weapon come from?" asked one of the civilian councils, coughing. "Your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea where," Minato said with a shrug. Danzo gave Naruto a narrowed look. He was asking, "What did you do to those monsters at the end?" "Witnesses say they saw you jump at the monsters and stab them." With a bewildered expression, Minato uttered, "What do you think I did? I killed them." "Show some respect, demon child," Danzo said, getting up from his chair. Minato gave Danzo a fierce look. That bastard continued to act like a jerk after 12 years. Minato was saying, "Respect is earned, not given, you stupid cripple." "Anbu," Danzo commanded, "arrest that boy." "On what charge?" Minato asked. According to Danzo, insulting a council member. "Anbu, stand down. Any more questions?" the Hokage said. Homura Mitokado, the final advisor, got up and said, "I don't have a question, but I have a suggestion. That boy's weapons are the only thing that hurt those monsters. I suggest the boy's weapons be studied in mass, produced in case of another attack." With a sly smile, Minato threw the Omni Sword at Danzo, who caught it with his only arm. "Okay then. Danzo, catch." His hands were crushed under the weight as soon as he caught it and fell to the ground. Minato grinned and moved more slowly than a snail to approach Danzo. As he got to him, he reached for the Omni Sword's hilt and lifted it. He stated, "The Omni Sword can only be wielded by me. Anyone else try to take it, well, you just saw what happened. The same goes for my cannon. No one other than me can have these weapons." The Hokage was approached again by Minato, who said, "Besides, don't you have something else to worry about, like, I don't know, discussing the amount of money that would be needed to repair the part of the village that got destroyed?" With narrowed eyes, a different member of the civilian council stated, "We were just about to discuss that now." Minato replied, "If I may make a suggestion, how about you pay me to rebuild the city? You'll save a lot of money on extra workers that way. I can make well past 500 kg bunshin. And your workforce on the rebuilding project has just added 500 more for a fraction of the cost. If what these bulletin boards say is true, you have about 1,000 houses to rebuild. 500 kg bunshin working on a house together, the village will be rebuilt in no time." As Homura put it, "But cage bunshins easily get destroyed." Minato cracked a smirk and said, "I'll stay on site of the rebuilding and make more when they get destroyed. I just need someone to tell me where to put what, and the cage bunshin will finish it from there." Shikaku Nara, the head of the Nara clan, and it does sound like a good idea. Hiring 500 workers to do the job is gonna cost a lot. 500 cage bunshin could probably finish a regular house in a day. But 500 regular people would only work half a day at the most and would take more than twice as long to make one. "Is there anything else you need me for?" Minato asked. The Akamichi clan head and Choji's father, Shuza Akamichi, responded, "No, I don't think so." Minato surprised everyone by disappearing in a puff of smoke after saying, "Okay then, I'm gone." They were unaware that Minato was capable of such a feat. Minato quickly left the Hokage tower using the Shunshin no Jutsu. In order for Naruto to learn jutsu and attacks while he slept, he and Ancient Greymon created a schedule. The problem was that they required him to exercise. Naruto had been using ramen to stunt his growth for years. Additionally, he was severely malnourished, which could be lethal. Additionally, being exhausted or undernourished is essentially begging for death in the shinobi career path. After mentally saying, "Okay, Naruto, being fused with ancient Greymon, has done a lot of things. Minato teleported his son's body to Training Ground 7. However, you still have to take action. It's good that ancient Greymon can now more easily channel his chakra into you, which will make physical training easier for you. Compared to the other Digimon vying for our world, the Tyrannomon you battled earlier today is cannon fodder. It will be necessary for you to be able to compete with them, as well as to pass those of an average person. You'll need to exert more effort than you've ever done. In response, Naruto said, "No problem." "All right, then," Minato said with a slight smile. "I want you to practice right now." Naruto then began honing the abilities that would permanently alter his life. After 2 weeks at his house, Naruto awoke in his bed 2 weeks after the Tyrannomon incident. They were scheduled to meet at the academy today to determine which team they would be assigned to. Naruto had changed a lot during these 2 weeks. His rigorous training regimen ensured that any extra body fat was promptly removed. Any malnutrition was also eliminated by his diet. There was so much ramen in ancient Greymon's stomach that he had to practically pump it out. He was able to acquire the strength, power, and skills required of a typical genin. Naruto spent the night conversing with his father in his mindscape while his body slept and got ready for the day. In the academy, his father had been tutoring him in the kinds of subjects he had missed as a child. Since most children entered the academy at age 9, Naruto's academic issue was this. At the age of 7, Naruto entered primarily to learn survival skills from the more inebriated and dim-witted members of Konoha's society about stealth. Due to their poor instruction, his early teachers had ruined his education. Iruka was the only instructor at the academy who provided him with assistance. Iruka offered his own time to help Naruto learn the things he missed from his early years after Naruto found the confidence to confide in him about his issues. However, it was already too late. It was too near exam season to force 3 years of education into Naruto's mind. However, Naruto was able to learn some of the academy's lessons from his father, which helped him make sense of things. In addition, his father taught him a shinobi-related skill. Ironically, the ability was known as common sense despite its rarity. Naruto was able to comprehend some aspects of the world, such as Hinata's intense crush on him, even better because his father helped him see and identify some of the more obvious things. Naruto learned the Shunshin no Jutsu and the Bunshin Daibakuha from Minato. Additionally, he informed Naruto about the Kage Bunshin's knowledge exchange. Naruto used these to send Kage Bunshin to read up on famous ninjas, the other hidden villages, and strategies. He even snatched the most recent Bingo Book edition from a wet-behind the ears Junin. Naruto went to his closet, opened it, and discovered more than just his one orange jumpsuit. He went into the bathroom to get ready for the day after picking his clothes. Naruto emerged and checked his appearance in a mirror. He was dressed in black pants and a dark red shirt. He was wearing black sandals and a small black vest. On the back of his red vest was the kanji for fire. His left bicep was bound with his Hite.8. He had his goggles secured around his head to finish the ensemble. Since beginning the training regimen, he had grown 2 inches, making him 5 feet tall. Looking out to the area where the Tyrannomon attacked, Naruto left his house. The place appeared to have nothing happened in just 2 weeks. The Kage Bunshin and Naruto's great endurance allowed him and the rest of Konoha's workers to quickly rebuild everything. He had to make up for Konoha's workers' absences at night and during breaks, but the pay was well worth it. It most likely exceeded the annual salary of a typical ninja. Additionally, he received payment again because his rescue of the village from the Tyrannomon was regarded as an A-rank mission. Naruto teleported to the academy using the Shunshin and vanished in a cloud of smoke. Naruto reappeared by the tree's swing and entered the room. When he arrived, he waited for Iruka to arrive by taking the seat between Hinata and Shikamaru. Many were taken aback by Naruto's appearance. Everyone was taken aback when news spread that he had defeated the Tyrannomon. Everyone's eyes were on Naruto, wondering how the dead last could have accomplished that. The first to recover from his shock was Sasuke. He said, "Is it true?" as he stood up in front of Naruto. "Is what true?" asked Naruto, who appeared to be the epitome of stoicism. He was laughing uncontrollably in his head. He had speculated on everyone's reactions to the battle 2 weeks prior during these last few days. He even correctly predicted Sasuke's response. Sasuke replied, "Don't give me that crap. The village's best jutsu didn't do any damage to those monsters, but that sword did. Where did you get it?" Naruto replied, "I bought it at a store. It's at the corner of fuck you and go to hell. This sword is the only one like it in existence and it's mine." "I can only imagine what he could do to Itachi with that sword if it could do that to those monsters," Sasuke said, glaring at Naruto and saying, "Give it to me. With the power of that sword, he could kill that bastard now and exact revenge on his clan. He had to have it. Naruto said, nah, as he gazed at Sasuke as if he had grown 10 heads. Give it to me now, said Sasuke, glaring even more. With a scowl, Naruto uttered the words, hell to the no. Sasuke replied, give me that sword, or I'll take it by force. Smirking, Naruto remarked, I'd like to see you try. With the intention of tackling Naruto and stealing the sword, Sasuke leapt over his desk at him. Naruto anticipated that Sasuke would do so he moved 5 feet to the right with the body flicker, allowing Sasuke to pass him and fall to the ground. Naruto grabbed Sasuke by the head as he ran up to him. Then Shikamaru threw him out of the window. Sasuke would have been hit by a headful of glass if Shikamaru hadn't opened it because he was feeling a little warm. Sasuke fell out of the window, flipped, and landed on his feet in a flash. Sasuke wasn't too hurt by the fall because they were on the 2nd floor. He only experienced mild dulling pain in his legs and mild knee weakness as a result. Naruto walked down the wall to the window. Naruto assumed a fighting stance and waited for Sasuke to move when he stopped by him. Naruto managed to avoid the punch that Sasuke threw at him. Naruto grabbed and held onto Sasuke's attempted left punch. Sasuke attempted a kick to the right. Naruto used his left hand to seize Sasuke's foot. Naruto turned around and slammed Sasuke's body against the building, causing him great pain. After that, Naruto threw Sasuke aside, causing him to fall into the training ring. Naruto turned to Sasuke and said, you can't have my sword. It's mine and I won't give it to you, Sasuke. Now give up or I'll use the sword you're trying to steal to end your life. You can't kill me, it's against the law, snorted Sasuke. Naruto laughed and replied, actually Uchiha, you're wrong. You're trying to steal my sword and that's theft. Under the laws of Konoha, I have the right to kill you in self-defense. If you were a minor, it would be illegal to kill you even if you tried to steal my sword. But with the Konoha Hite 8 comes emancipation, which means that I'm completely in my rights to drive my sword through your skull. Sasuke's grin turned into a horrified expression. Now that he was free, he forgot. In reality, Naruto's statement was untrue. Unless you were attacked with an assassination type jutsu or at least a B-rank jutsu, killing any Konoha shinobi was treasonous. He would either have his chakra permanently sealed off and be forced to live as a civilian, or he would spend the rest of his life in a maximum security prison if he killed Sasuke now. However, Sasuke was unaware of that, so Naruto took advantage of his ignorance. Naruto was saying, now, stop trying to take my sword, or I promise I will kill you. After turning around, Naruto walked out of the training ring. Sasuke shouted, fire style, grand fireball jutsu, with his back to the viewer. Naruto made a Kage Bunshin before he could finish uttering the jutsu's name. Naruto and the clone used the body flicker to escape the area as soon as the fire was close enough. The assault soared through the atmosphere. Sasuke anticipated seeing a charred corpse there as he stopped the jutsu. However, he saw nothing instead. Naruto and his clone waited for the ideal opportunity to remove Sasuke from the trees behind the Uchiha. Now, Naruto said, turning to his clone at the appropriate moment. From the tree they were in, the clone leapt out and charged at Sasuke. It was too late for Sasuke to turn around. Sasuke punched Naruto's clone in the head after the clone tackled him to the ground. At that point, the clone began to glow yellow. After removing Sasuke, the clone remarked, you better run, asshole. Sasuke turned around and attempted to flee without any further encouragement. However, the clone exploded before he could. Sasuke was blasted 10 feet away by the blast. Sasuke's clothing was destroyed, but it didn't cause much harm. He felt lightheaded and suffered from a severe headache from the impact of the explosion. He was all right otherwise. The only reason Naruto was able to defeat Sasuke so easily was because Sasuke was unprepared for Naruto's new abilities. He would have fought much more effectively if he had known how strong Naruto was. Looking around as he stood up, he noticed that Naruto was walking into the building as if nothing had happened. Every student in their class watched their altercation outside as well. With a furious glare, Sasuke got up and headed to class. The rest of Naruto's classmates were in utter shock. Sasuke Uchiha, the Rookie of the Year, had just lost to Naruto, the dead last in their class. In actuality, Naruto defeated Sasuke and failed the graduation test 3 times in a row. Ignoring their looks, Naruto took a seat again between Hinata and Shikamaru. Some of the children were taken aback because they had never heard of Naruto passing the exam. The change in his attire was noticed by others, primarily Hinata. Next time you and the Uchiha decide to fight, throw him out of some other window. I almost caught a face full of ass when you threw him, Shikamaru said, turning to face Naruto. Shikamaru was simply laughed at by Naruto. He continued, "I'll be sure to remember that next time." Sakura and Ino entered abruptly after learning of the altercation with Sasuke. The two of them approached Naruto and began yelling uncontrollably. "What are you even doing here, loser? This class is for the graduates," Sakura finally uttered. Sasuke was the loudest of those who muttered something on the same line. He attempted to make a witty remark to Naruto in an attempt to save face, saying, "Yeah, loser, were you crying too much to hear Iruka? The dropouts class is down the hall." Everyone fell silent when Naruto turned to face Sasuke and asked, "If the dropout class is down the hall, then what are you guys doing here in this room?" Continued to say, "I have a Konoha-hite.8 on my bicep, dumbasses. That means I passed the test. Observation is a necessary ability for a shinobi, and obviously none of you have it." Everyone stopped talking after Naruto's statement. Naruto appeared to have returned with a new attitude in addition to a new wardrobe. When Sasuke said something like that, he would normally yell, but he was cool under pressure as he took them all down a notch. The class returned to their previous activities after they had moved past the new Naruto. Naruto began assessing the other students in his class as he looked around the room. There were 27 children in the room. Only 7 of the 27 children, in Naruto's opinion, truly possessed the skills necessary to be shinobi. He, Sasuke, Shikamaru, Shino, Kiba, Choji, and Hinata were among them. Although Ino possessed the ability to be a skilled shinobi as well, her attitude was incorrect. She handled it as though it were a work of fiction rather than a ruthless way of life. Sakura's issues were more serious than Ino's, but they were still there. Naruto believed that none of the other students in the class demonstrated enough skill to be considered shinobi. They would most likely only reach Genin if they ever made it. The children stopped talking and began to listen when Iruka entered. Iruka began naming the teams after a touching speech that the author will not type. Iruka advanced to Team 7 after going through Teams 1 through 6. He continued, "Team 7 Issa Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno." At that, Sakura jumped up in victory, yelling stuff like, "True love conquers all." And Naruto Uzumaki. Sakura slanted her head down, while Naruto stood up and yelled, "Damn you Sarutobi. Your Junin instructor is Kakashi Hitaki. Team 8 is Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburame. Your sensei will be Kurenai Yuhi. Team 10 is Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, and Ino Yamanaka. Your sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. Now, you have a 2-hour break before your senseis come to take you guys. I wish you all good luck." Naruto stopped Hinata before she could leave the room as the class left. "Hey Hinata, what are you doing later tonight?" Naruto asked her. Hinata gazed wide-eyed at Naruto. Is he going to ask me out? She was even more terrified because she believed he was. Nothing. Why? She asked. Behind his neck, Naruto placed his hand. It was a reflex that revealed his anxiety. He was attempting to ask this girl out even though he had never spoken to her for a long time. He replied, "Well, I needed some help on learning the stuff from the earlier years at the academy. I was hoping you could tutor me?" Hinata stammered, "LL like a date?" In response, Naruto said, "Yeah, like a date. Is that okay?" with a look of embarrassment on his face. Hinata blurted out the response before realizing it because she was so ecstatic, "Yes." Naruto replied, "Cool. After your team meets, let's meet on the academy roof at 6. We'll go to my house and study." "S's. Sure." Hinata replied, "See you then, Naruto.kun." With that, Naruto began to leave, saying, "See ya, Hinata-chan." Naruto left the room without noticing Hinata's eyebrows nearly leaping 10 feet into the air. Hinata, feeling dizzy, sat down in the seat next to hers. Then she fainted instantly. "Why did you want me to do that, Dad?" Naruto asked himself as he teleported to the top of the academy roof. Minato began speaking to his son, saying, "Number 1, she likes you. Sakura is borderline obsessive over Sasuke, so she won't ever notice you. You could at least give her a chance. Number 2, you need allies in your class. And I can tell Hinata will be a good friend. Number 3, even though I'm helping you, she's a lot better teacher than me. And lastly, you seriously need to get laid." Naruto could hear Minato chuckle at that last statement. "Aren't you my father?" Naruto thought. "Your 12-year-old son shouldn't be told to go have sex. That is simply incorrect." Minato replied, "Well, look at it this way, Naruto. You're legally emancipated now. You're old enough to kill in the name of this village, so you should be old enough to drink and get your freak on. Besides, the average life expectancy for ninja is 32. You're turning 13 soon, so you're close to having half your life over already. You'd better get all your fun in now before you get killed. After striking a contemplative pose, Naruto uttered the words, "Touch a copyright, but what should I do now? I've never been on a date, but I ended it." According to Minato, be yourself. Besides, you're just studying together. It's not that serious, Minato sighed. Easy for you to say, sneered Naruto. My mother was the last person you ever went on a date with, and that was nearly 13 years ago. Just as Minato opened his mouth to speak, he said, "Touch a copyright." Naruto began working on the Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu during the 2-hour break. Upon returning to the room, he discovered that he was among the first people present. The senseis began to show up and take their students once everyone else had arrived. Each team was taken one at a time. It went on until Team 7 was left waiting for their own sensei in the room. Naruto chose to teach his teacher a lesson because he was so bored. He recalled the books his clones had read at the library when he learned that Kakashi, Sharingan, Hitaki was his teacher. Since Kakashi was his father's student, he asked him about Kakashi in order to concoct the ideal practical joke. Naruto began working on his prank by placing a tripwire in front of the door. Sasuke remarked, "What are you doing, Dobi? You won't be able to set that trap in time. Our teacher could arrive at any moment," after noticing what Naruto was doing. Sakura replied, "Yeah, Baka, besides, our teacher is a Junin. A tripwire that obvious will be easily spotted." Naruto grinned. "That's why the tripwire is so obvious." "What?" Sakura asked, narrowing her eyes slightly in bewilderment. Still smirking, Naruto replied, "Think about it, Sakura-chan. With this tripwire being so obvious, Kakashi won't notice the 3 extra I'm gonna set up for when he avoids this one." "That's actually not half bad," Sakura said, narrowing her eyes further in contemplation. "But our teacher is still a Junin. He'll easily see those tripwires. You're not gonna get away with this." After giving Sakura a brief glance, Naruto burst out laughing. Sakura said, "What's so funny?" with narrowed eyes, this time in rage. Naruto, as he laughed, said, "Sakura, you're talking to Naruto Uzumaki here. The prankster prince of Konoha. I'm the same guy who messed with the Hyuga clan's laundry so all their clothes were pink for a week." "That was you?" Sasuke interrupted Naruto's statement. "Yeah," Naruto replied. "How did you do it?" asked Sakura. "I hopped to the top of the building next to their clan house, hopped on top of the guard outpost, and walked right through the front door. I hanged into Hinata and asked where the laundry room was. When they told me, I went there while still in the Hinata transformation." Naruto said, "The Hyuga clan guardsmen were stuck up. They thought they had nothing to worry about because their Byakugan could see almost 360 degrees. I noticed Hinata in the laundry room when I entered. However, I leapt to the ceiling and hung on one of the water poles before she noticed me. I stayed there until she departed, saying, I had never been so happy to be so underweight. I then took a red sock out of my jacket and stuffed it inside. I changed back into Hinata and walked away. However, I ran into this guy and this young girl on my way out. They both began to give me strange looks. They turned out to be Hinata's sister and father, and I fled for my life when I realized who Hinata's father was. All of their clothing was pink the following day." With wide eyes, Sakura exclaimed, "You sneaked into the Hyuga clan house, bumped into the clan head, and survived? The clan head personally killed the last man to enter their home without authorization." "Yeah," Naruto said, nodding, "not some of my best stealth work." In mild surprise, Sasuke's eyes widened and he said, "Not some of your best stealth work?" "Duh," Naruto said, glancing at Sasuke as if he had grown a second head. "I painted graffiti on Hokage Mountain just 3 weeks ago, and nobody saw me or the graffiti until 3 hours after I was done. Then, nearly the whole Chunin force pursued me around the city, and I nearly escaped before Iruka Sensei apprehended me." Sakura murmured, "So that's why you were late that day and Iruka Sensei had to get you. Anyway, I'm also the same guy who made those fake naked pictures of Tsunade and Jiraiya of the Densetsu no Sanin and sold them to all of the newspapers in the village," Naruto said, grinning and proudly boasting about his achievements. Unfortunately, boasting ran in his parents' side of the family, so he was destined to do the same. "I am the same person who used a liquid aphrodisiac to saturate all of the dog food for the Inuzuka clan dogs. I am the same person who sold the newspapers those phony photos of Kaharu Utatane and old man Sarutobi in their undies. And I got away with all those tricks. It will be easy to trick some habitually late, porn-dependent Junin." Naruto finished his boasting and returned to preparing his prank, attaching 3 more tripwires before hurriedly leaving the classroom using the Shunshin no Jutsu and returning a half-hour later with 3 buckets full of fish, creating some cage bunshin. Each clone took a fish and began chopping off its head and gutting it, dumping the guts and fish heads into one bucket and also dumping the blood into it. After tying the bucket to the ceiling and tying it to the prank, Naruto proceeded to the wall across from the door and began tying kunai there as well. After adding them to the prank, he went to his seat and sat down, waiting for his prank to come to pass. Sakura asked him right away, "What was that clone jutsu you used? How did they manage to gut the fish when the clone jutsu is just a genjutsu?" "You are correct," Naruto remarked. "A genjutsu is the clone jutsu. The shadow clone jutsu was what I used. They're real, but they'll be knocked out after 1 or 2 hits." After learning that Naruto had been defeated in a battle earlier that day by one of his clones, Sasuke became intrigued and asked, "Is that the same clone you used today?" "No," said Naruto with a sly smile. "I used a different one on you. That bunshin was a Daibakuha. When Daibakuha bunshin are struck, they explode rather than scatter." Before Sasuke could say anything, Naruto turned to face him and said, "I'm not going to teach you either of them, Sasuke. This time, it is due to the danger rather than the jutsu's rarity." With a perplexed expression, Sasuke asked Naruto, "What danger?" With a sigh, Naruto said, "Sasuke, flare your chakra." Seeing Naruto's eyes narrow a little, Sasuke smirked, assuming it was jealousy. This would blow the dope off that high pedestal he put himself on. Sasuke stood up and flared his chakra as they had learned, which was used to show your current chakra capacity. Naruto replied, "You don't have enough chakra to do the technique." In record time, Sasuke's smirk turned to a frown, and he exclaimed, "What? You don't have enough chakra to perform the technique," Naruto remarked. "To begin with, each clone you create requires a specific quantity of chakra in order to survive. Because it must not only be sturdy but also resemble you, both of which require a lot of chakra. Your entire chakra is divided among each clone you create if you are able to meet that requirement. Your chakra will be divided between you and the clone if you create one, and it will have enough chakra to survive. However, they wouldn't have enough for each clone if you made 20, and you would have wasted all of your chakra. The technique would dispel the clones in a minute, and you wouldn't be able to create 10 before you fainted from chakra exhaustion. That's your problem, Sasuke. You would quickly perish if you attempted to employ this method." At the sight of Sasuke's angry expression, Sakura questioned, "But you just made over 20 clones and you're not tired at all?" "Because I mastered the technique," Naruto stated. "The only person who can make clones and then absorb back their excess chakra is a Kage Bunshin no Jutsu master. I was able to make the chakra return to me without getting tired because the clones I just created hardly used any of the chakra they had. I'm not refusing to be impolite, rather, I'm refusing to let you live." According to Sasuke, "Well then I will only make 10. Sasuke, they dispel after one attack," Naruto moaned. "Your clones will be destroyed and you will have expended 90% of your chakra if you are facing someone who is as skilled in taijutsu as you are." "How can you make that many?" Sakura asked. "What the hell is this, 20 questions?" murmured Naruto. "Anyway, my clan's bloodline ability is the reason I can make that many clones," he said, raising his voice. Sakura stated, "You don't have a bloodline, stop lying, Naruto." "I do," Naruto said. "Its lack of visibility compared to the Byakugan or Sharingan is the issue. My clan has a disproportionately high chakra due to my ancestry. We are able to heal more quickly than the average person thanks to that chakra capacity. Unconsciously, a portion of our body's chakras are transformed into healing chakras, which mend any wounds we sustain." Sakura pestered Sasuke for a date during the remainder of the wait, while Naruto was mentally conversing with his father and ancient Greymon. "Why did you want me to do that, Dad?" "I wanted to rub it in Sasuke's face that I have more chakra than him," Naruto said. With a loud sigh, Minato said, "Believe me, son. I have spent my entire life rubbing people's faces with various objects. I've offended people by saying things that I had no right to say. And if I learned anything from it, it's that it doesn't lead anywhere. It won't benefit you in any way. You ought to make an effort to become friends with him. They are all dead now, despite the fact that his clan is full of jackasses. Sasuke might be able to change the clan's course with your assistance. Besides, you and he are teammates now. It's best if you're friends. If not, at least be neutral to each other. Trust me, being on a team where you hate the other person's guts will not go smoothly." "If you say so," Naruto said with a sigh. The Junin entered 2 hours later. Kakashi stepped over Naruto's fake tripwire after seeing it with ease. However, he was mistaken. After setting up the decoy tripwire, Naruto had 3 concealed tripwires positioned 4 inches apart from the decoy. When Kakashi felt his foot tread on the tripwire, he thought, oh boy. Kakashi saw 5 kunai being fired at him after hearing the whistling in the air. He leapt to his left, out of danger, thanks to years of experience. Naruto positioned a second wire at waist height to the left. Kakashi jumped straight into the wire, thinking, oh shit. Suddenly, Kakashi was soaked by a bucket of fish blood, guts, and heads that had fallen on him. In order to prevent the guts from leaking into his eye, Kakashi could hardly close it in time. He looked to see Naruto laughing uncontrollably after shaking the gunk off his head. Sakura was also giggling a little. Sasuke merely gave a small laugh. Kakashi replied, my first impression of you all is that I hate you. Still giggling, Naruto remarked, we don't care. Meet me on the academy roof in 5 minutes, Kakashi said before body flickering out of the room to wash that stuff off in the restroom. Sakura and Sasuke remained in the room as Naruto's body flickered out as well. As they reached the roof, they noticed Kakashi standing up and Naruto sitting on the edge of the roof. After the other genin had sat down with Naruto, stated, okay guys, since we're a brand new team, it's time we got to know each other better. I'll start off. My name is Kakashi Hitaki. I like a lot of things. I dislike just as many things. My best skill would be my dream Issa. Well, I have a lot of hobbies. Now why don't you start us off, Pinky? Sakura looked at Kakashi and said, my name is Sakura Haruno. My likes are, looks at Sasuke and blushes. My hobbies are, looks at Sasuke again and blushes. My dreams for the future are, looks at Sasuke again and blushes harder than before. Any dislikes? Asked Kakashi. Sakura uttered, Naruto, with a cruel expression. Muttering, Kakashi said, oh great, a fangirl. What about you, ass? Kakashi said, turning to face Sasuke. At that, Naruto burst out laughing. I thought I was the only one who saw the resemblance. Sasuke ignored Naruto's remark, saying, my name is Sasuke Uchiha. I have a lot of likes and dislikes. My dream is more of an ambition. It's to revive my clan and to kill a certain someone. Oh great, an avenger, thought Kakashi and Naruto. This is going to be fantastic. Blondie? Kakashi asked, turning to face Naruto. According to Naruto, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, fighting, blowing things up, and cooking. I dislike perverts, stares at Kakashi. Bastards who think they're better than everyone because of their clan. Stares at Sasuke. Fangirls, stares at Sakura, and people who don't have common sense. My dreams for the future would be to become the Hokage. That way I could use my abilities to better protect the people of this village. Kakashi replied, okay guys, now it's time for us to take the real Genin exam. In response, Sakura said, we already took the Genin exam, Kakashi, sensei. Kakashi replied, no you haven't. That test at the academy was to see if you were able to take the real test. Only 9 Genin will pass this test, and there's 27 Genin taking it. Those who fail are sent back to the academy. Meet me at training ground 7 at 7 AM tomorrow. Just to tell you, my version of the test, no Genin team has passed yet. And if your school reports are anything to go by, you won't either. By the way, I suggest you don't eat anything tomorrow, you'll just puke it up anyway. Naruto said, wait, before Kakashi could push Shunshin away. What's up Naruto? Naruto replied, if you had to put this test in a general category, like retrieval, survival, assassination, destruction, assault, what would it be? In Kakashi's words, survival. Grinning, Naruto said, thank you, Kakashi, sensei. No problem, Kakashi said, rising in a cloud of smoke. Guys, you want to go grab something to eat, maybe get acquainted with each other better? Naruto asked, turning to face his group. Sakura quickly repeated Sasuke's words after he scoffed and said, nope. With a shrug, Naruto said, all right, see you guys tomorrow. Then Naruto rose in a cloud of smoke. Naruto arrived at his own private training ground and immediately began formulating a plan of action against Kakashi. They were able to estimate Kakashi's strength, speed, and knowledge with the assistance of his father and their understanding of him. They were able to form a broad hypothesis based on his father's knowledge, which was more than 10 years off. They then used their knowledge of Sakura and Sasuke to devise a plan against Kakashi. By including them in the process, they not only came up with a plan for when the 2 Genin chose to work together, but also a plan for when they didn't. In response to Naruto's question about why he had to do this, his father said 2 things. If you fail to plan, my son, you plan to fail. Also, plans and backup plans are like condoms when you're going out with a slut. It's better to have one and not need it, than to need one and not have it. Naruto left for the academy roof after they had completed their plans, watching Hinata arrive. He responded with, "Hey, Hinata. Chan, you made it. So, wanna go over my house now?" "Yes," was stuttering out of Hinata's mouth, but not as much as before. Taking Hinata by the hand, Naruto teleported her to his front door. "Welcome, Hinata. Chan, to La Casa de Naruto," he said to Hinata while holding the doorknob. He then opened the door to reveal a well, the best way to put it a pigsty. There were ramen stains on the table and empty ramen cups all over the place. There was graffiti all over the wall. In addition, the front door appeared somewhat crooked. "Sorry Hinata. Chan, but I didn't expect company. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto said, looking sheepishly at Hinata before calling forth 30 clones. Naruto replied, "Okay you lazy wastes of chakra, grab a bucket full of water and a rag, and clean this place up." After shouting, "Hi," the clones proceeded to tidy the house. Everything was spotless in just 5 minutes. "Okay, now welcome to Uzumaki Naruto no An. If you're having trouble understanding, it means welcome to Naruto Uzumaki's house." After laughing at Naruto's antics, Hinata entered the house. After running into his room, Naruto picked up a book. He invited Hinata to join him in a chair by the table. He stated, "I've been going over some of the stuff from the last few years and I don't understand a lot of it. I was hoping you could help me with it." With a stuttering, "Sure," Hinata assisted Naruto in his studies. Surprisingly, they were able to study for several hours and cover a whole week. All you needed to do was teach Naruto. He was a natural learner. The new teacher role was a perfect fit for Hinata. She made sure Naruto took thorough notes, repeated things for emphasis, and even gave him homework after he informed her of the shadow clone's capacity for learning. To help Naruto remember the lesson, she reasoned that one clone could stay at home and complete the homework while he was out doing other things. "It's getting late, Hinata. Chan. I'll walk you home," Naruto said after they were finished. Naruto had no trouble walking Hinata home. Because of the services he had provided to the village, he received fewer glares than usual, but some people still detested him. Nevertheless, Naruto ignored them. Naruto's personality started to change significantly after his father was there to support him and tell him, "I love you." The main result was that he became less concerned with the opinions of the villagers. He didn't care if they rotted in hell. The moment Naruto arrived at Hinata's house, he said, "Well, here's your stop Hinata, Chan." Though not as much as before, Hinata flushed. She responded with, "Thanks for W. Walking me home, NN Naruto.kun." Naruto replied, "No problem, Hinata. Chan. I should be thanking you for helping me with my studying. You're really smart." The deeper Hinata's blush, the more she said, "No I'm not." Naruto replied, "Yes you are. And you really need to stop doubting yourself so much. I've seen you fight Hinata. Chan, you're a great fighter. You just need to stop being so shy and stop letting others walk over you." Thanks. No problem. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow then? "Sure. Thanks again. I'll see you later." After turning around, Naruto returned home to complete his plans for Kakashi. Naruto showed up at the training grounds at 9:30 a.m. the following day. Naruto remarked, "Let me guess, you guys have been here since 7 haven't you?" After noticing Sakura and Sasuke were already present. "Yeah. Where were you?" "Sensei told us to meet here at 7, Sakura said, squinting her eyes. To Sakura's dismay, Naruto burst out laughing. Naruto was saying, "Sakura-chan, did you forget what I said yesterday? Habitually late, porn. Addicted Junin sums up Kakashi Hitaki. He's not gonna be here for another half hour maybe." "To be honest, Sakura, he did say that to us," Sasuke remarked. From the Omni Sword's strap on his back, Naruto withdrew it. Naruto began practicing the sword in order to kill time until Kakashi could get there. In addition, he was mentally reviewing the plan with his father. When Kakashi got there, he stated, "Okay guys, you're all here. So that means we can get started quickly. Now, it's 10 a.m. now. You have until noon to take these 2 bells from me. If you get the bells, you can become genin. If you don't, you're sent back to the academy. It's that simple." Sakura was about to respond when Naruto remarked, "And I'm guessing the fact that there's 2 bells means that one of us is going back no matter what happens." Kakashi replied, "Very observant. One of you will be going back regardless of what happens." With a scowl, Sasuke told Kakashi, "You can't do that." Kakashi pulled out a timer and set it for 12 o'clock. He replied, "Yes I can, and yes I will. Unless you get a bell from me. Now in this survival exercise, no holds barred. You must come at me with the intention to kill me. You have until noon. Begin. The three genin leapt into the trees and hid there until it was time to emerge. Well, they're skilled at hiding. Sakura is in the left hand bushes. To the right, in the trees, is Sasuke. I am blind to Naruto. However, the location also offers protection in case someone tries to find him. I'm impressed. Perhaps they will pass. Naruto thought, all right, Dad. Which should I do first, in your opinion? Should I wait for the others to join me or go fight Kakashi right away? Try to win over the others first, Minato said. Go after Kakashi by yourself if they are unable to assist you. Use the strategy we developed if they are helpful. I hope you can defeat him with your combined efforts. In order to avoid being noticed by Kakashi, Naruto left his position with as little noise as possible. Upon reaching Sasuke's hiding place, he said, Sasuke, we need to talk. What do you want, loser? Don't you see that I'm trying to defeat Kakashi? Sasuke asked, turning around. Naruto stated, in case you didn't know, Sasuke, Kakashi is one of the best Junin in the village. It's gonna take more than some hotshot overconfident genin to defeat him. If me, you, and Sakura combined our efforts, we might be able to defeat him. But unless we do, we're all going back to the academy. Sasuke replied, no, I'm gonna get a bell all by myself. I don't need your help, dead last. Okay, but don't come bitching to me when he wipes the floor with your ass, Naruto said, giving Sasuke a fierce look. Naruto leapt aside and moved to take Sakura's place. Naruto quickly located her and posed the same query to her. The first thing she asked was, is Sasuke-kun gonna help? Naruto replied, no, he isn't. He thinks that because he's Rookie of the Year, he can defeat an elite Junin. Sakura replied, no, I'm not joining you. Besides, any plan you have is probably bound to fail anyway. You can't make a plan to save your life. Naruto replied, fine then, I'll get a bell by myself. I don't need your help. Naruto turned his back on Sakura and went outside. Kakashi remarked, you're not very smart, are you? Upon seeing Naruto. Naruto replied, no, I'm very smart. I'm smart enough to realize that you knew where we were from the second we took off. We didn't fool you at all by hiding. So I said, what's the point? He's an elite Junin and when he wants to find us, he can easily do it. We're just wasting time hiding. So I decided to challenge you head on for the bell. Kakashi replied, I'm not trying to sound conceited or anything, but you alone can't defeat me. I'm in a completely different league than you. You might have that fancy sword and cannon, but I still don't think they're enough for you alone to defeat me. Naruto replied, I know I can't defeat you alone. But the only help I have is Sasuke and Sakura, who won't help me. So I'm all alone. I might as well see where I stand in comparison to one of the best in the village. After drawing the Omni Sword, Naruto called forth the positron laser. The weapons would be essential to the success of their plan. Naruto launched a blast at Kakashi, putting a little energy into his attack. Naruto followed Kakashi as he dove to the side. Naruto attempted to cut Kakashi, aiming for his torso. By a narrow margin, Kakashi managed to leap back and avoid it. Naruto leapt forward and attempted another slash, but Kakashi was able to dodge the sword slash thanks to her fast reflexes. With a front kick, Kakashi leapt to his feet, but Naruto rolled beneath it from behind. Naruto fired, aiming his laser at Kakashi's back. Kakashi substituted a log for himself with the Kawarimi just before it struck. Using the Shunshin, Naruto appeared behind Kakashi after detecting his chakra signature. Naruto attempted to cut Kakashi in half vertically with an overhead slash. Kakashi kicked Naruto in the chest after effortlessly rolling forward to avoid the blow. Then, in an attempt to put some distance between himself and Naruto, Kakashi began to backflip. 3 more positron laser blasts were attempted by Naruto, but none were successful. Naruto dashed forward and managed to cut Kakashi's forearm slightly, but Kakashi managed to punch Naruto in the jaw and then kick him in the chest. Kakashi easily avoided Naruto's blast as he drew his cannon forward and fired it. After avoiding Naruto's subsequent 3 blasts, Kakashi followed Naruto by shining. He was holding a Tor seal in his hands. Then he shouted, Leaf-style secret finger jutsu. 1,000 years of death, while extending his fingers. Then he pointed his fingers at Naruto's butt. Naruto managed to get Shunshin out of range of the attack before they struck. He performed the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu while hovering over Kakashi. One of them abruptly turned 30. They each possessed the Omni Sword and the Positron Laser. With a shout of, attack! Naruto surrounded Kakashi with the 30-man battalion. Despite avoiding the more lethal blows, Kakashi sustained cuts all over his body. He ended up with a cut along his back after avoiding a stab wound to the heart. He ended up getting his leg cut when he leapt backwards from another blow. The cuts were minor, but they were beginning to pile up. In order to avoid another blow, Kakashi jumped into the air and began performing hand seals at a breakneck pace. I should end this before things get too bad. Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu, he shouted. The Grand Fireball Jutsu was essentially designed to eliminate opponents in a large space. Kakashi inhaled deeply and exhaled a massive cloud of fire that fell upon the clones. Kakashi didn't realize he was playing right into Naruto's hands. Things were not looking good for Sharingan Kakashi because each clone had a positron laser and Kakashi was unable to dodge in the air. After aiming the laser at Kakashi, each clone fired a shot. The Grand Fireball was swiftly penetrated by the 30 shots, which then blasted Kakashi. Kakashi had to bear the full brunt of the attack because he didn't have enough time to perform Kawarimi. Despite having 30 blasts, they were significantly diminished to prevent them from penetrating human flesh. Upon landing, Kakashi examined his injuries and reflected, it could have been worse. Naruto replied, that was a warning shot. I won't be so nice next time, Kakashi, sensei. Kakashi replied, you won't have to. Earth style, Mud Dragon Jutsu. Kakashi called forth a mud dragon and gave it the order to attack Naruto. The dragon spat out 10 mud balls as it turned to face Naruto. With ease, Naruto's clones destroyed the dragon after blasting the mud balls. Kakashi was the target of Naruto's laser. Before the wall was blown through, Kakashi swiftly executed the Earth style, Earth Protection Wall Jutsu and then teleported away using the Shunshin. Kakashi reappeared behind a clone and punched it in the head before doing the same to the 8 clones surrounding him. The clones attempted, but failed, to attack him after noticing his presence. All of their attacks were easily evaded by Kakashi, who then eliminated them when they were vulnerable. Kakashi shunshined away before he was blasted again after eliminating 4 clones in that manner. Kakashi made a few hand seals before shouting, Wind style, Great Breakthrough Jutsu, as he reappeared a short distance away. Naruto and several of his shadow clones were blown backwards by the jutsu's powerful draft that swept across the clearing. Kakashi ended the jutsu and turned to see Naruto using the Shunshin to vanish. Tell me this, Kakashi. Sensei, Naruto said as he reappeared behind Kakashi. Sasuke is arrogant and thinks he can do everything in the world by himself, so he disagreed to help me in my plan. Sakura is Sasuke's lapdog and follows him everywhere. Coaches need to respect one another for the team to function. That's not what we have. We have the guy they always put down, his bitch, and an asshole. In my opinion, we were destined to fail from the beginning. Teamwork is the focus of this test. It all comes down to being prepared to sacrifice your needs in order to meet those of your fellow ninja. And between the 3 of us, that will never occur. Right now, you might as well just let us down. After that, Naruto vanished with the Shunshin, leaving Kakashi to find the others. Kakashi found Sakura with ease and knocked her out with ease, simply putting her into a weak genjutsu that caused her to see her worst fear, which, of course, was seeing Sasuke hurt, and she fainted easily when she saw it. In the end, Sasuke did no harm to Kakashi. Kakashi easily defeated him, and just to be a jerk, he buried Sasuke up to his head in the ground. Sasuke fought back, even touching the bells and surprising Kakashi by knowing the Grand Fireball Jutsu. Kakashi was blasted from behind before he could leave the spot where he buried Sasuke. He turned around and saw Naruto running at him with the Omni Sword. Kakashi pulled out a kunai and threw it at Naruto's chest, but it passed through him. Realizing too late, he exclaimed, "Clone!" and was blasted from all sides by Naruto and his clones. Before Kakashi could move, Naruto had a clone run over to him, making a Daibakuha Bunshin. When it was close enough, the clone exploded, blowing Kakashi onto the ground a few feet away. Before Kakashi could kick the clone, however, the clone threw the bells into the tree line, where the original Naruto caught them, and the Daibakuha Bunshin exploded, injuring Kakashi as well. When Kakashi stood back up, a Daibakuha Bunshin grabbed him from behind in a full Nelson hold. The clone placed its arms under Kakashi's underarms and pushed his hands on the back of Kakashi's head, rendering his arms useless. The timer went off when Kakashi awoke from the explosion, and he retrieved Sasuke from the dirt where Naruto had left him. He then brought Sasuke back to the clearing, where Naruto and a freshly recovered Sakura were waiting for him. "I must admit, I'm surprised," Kakashi remarked. "It's unbelievable that Naruto truly received both bells. He wouldn't even get one, in my opinion. I have to ask Naruto, though, what you intend to do with those bells." "Well, you guys should thank Naruto," Kakashi said after Naruto tossed a bell to Sakura and Sasuke without saying anything. "You guys didn't have to repeat the academy because of him. You succeed." The 3 genin wanted to leap with delight, but Kakashi commanded them to wait. I don't think you guys will make a good team. I'll ask the Hokage to have us complete D-ranked missions for 6 months before you receive a single C rank just for that. In addition to removing you from the Konoha Ninja program, I will request that the Hokage ban you from ever returning if your teamwork hasn't improved after 6 months. Do I express myself clearly? In response, the 3 genin said, yes sensei. All right, let me begin by explaining how this will proceed. I'll give you a method to master. It will be clear to you in a week. I'll meet with each of you on .1 the following week to find out how you are training or learning on your own. Additionally, we will be conducting missions during that week. At least 3 D ranks will be performed each day. I'll assist Sasuke in private on Monday. Sakura's day is Wednesday. Naruto's day is Friday. Let's do some chakra control exercises to begin the day. Tree climbing is a common genin chakra control exercise. Kakashi. Sensei, how will climbing trees help us control our chakra? Sakura asked. Naruto is able to climb trees as well. Easy, Kakashi said, you won't be allowed to use your hands. Kakashi said, what I mean is that you will have to concentrate chakra to your feet to climb up, in response to their perplexed looks. After that, you must walk up it normally. The bark beneath your feet will be destroyed if you focus too much chakra. You won't stick if you don't use enough. Take out a kunai and use it to indicate your advancement up the tree, each of you. Naruto remarked, Kakashi, I already know this. You do? Said Kakashi. Who instructed you? Iruka. Sensei, Naruto lied with ease. He took this action in an attempt to assist me in improving my chakra control. Well, you just ruined my entire lesson plan for this week, Kakashi remarked. I had intended for us to spend the entire week working on this, but if you are already familiar with it, you can continue training on your own until Sakura and Sasuke pick it up. Okay then, said Naruto. After creating a shadow clone, Naruto went to a remote area of the training ground and began sparring with the clone in an attempt to improve his taijutsu. He continued to train alone until Kakashi informed them that training was over, but before he left, Kakashi offered to spar against Naruto in Kenjutsu if he ever needed it, and they agreed to do so every Friday. After deciding to spend the night studying there, Naruto proceeded to Team 8's training ground to fetch Hinata. The week went pretty much as follows. Naruto would study with Hinata every night and train on his own or give Sakura and Sasuke tips on how to complete the training exercise. By the 3rd day, Sakura was able to master it, while Sasuke took 3 days longer than Sakura, but by the following Monday, all the teams were able to climb trees. Kakashi assigned them their first mission that Monday, which was to chase Tora the cat. They had to follow the demon cat from hell for an hour, but they succeeded in finishing it and 5 other D ranks that day. The ancient warrior of fire sent Naruto a message later that day, saying, Naruto, it's time. Your body's incapacity to contain the power has prevented you from transforming into a Digimon. However, your body can withstand my power now that you're much stronger. I believe it's time for us to give it a try. Are you prepared? With a sneer, Naruto said, come on, of course I am. After saying, okay then. The ancient warrior of fire began to flood Naruto with its energy, causing his own energy to rise to ever higher levels. Blue strips of something began to cover him, and as he was covered, he began to feel his body change and mutate. The entire experience lasted for 10 seconds, but when it was over, Naruto felt very different. After the strips that had been used to shield Naruto's body were removed, he emerged looking different. He still had his blonde hair and blue eyes, but that was about all that was the same. He grew a full foot, reaching 5 feet 10 inches, and his hair reached his waist. He gained roughly 1.5 times as much muscle tone as he had previously. And he was dressed differently. He was wearing a bodysuit made of black spandex. He was wearing some strange armor, too. He was wearing a 3-horned orange face mask. The final 2 were emerging from his temples, while the first was on his forehead. His chest was covered in red and white armor. He was also wearing red armor on his shins and forearms. White bands with 3 holes in the top were worn around his wrist and ankles. His feet were also covered by the armor. Only 2 toes that resembled talons could fit through the armor. According to Naruto, this feels great, Ancient Greymon said. Like it? This is the first stage of my power. You are a Gunimon, the human spirit of fire. I suggest that you train in this form for a while. Try to get used to it before another monster attack happens. Alright, Naruto said. Thus, Naruto trained and learned the powers that came with becoming a Gunimon for the remainder of the day and much of his free time. His chakra affinity changed from just wind to wind and fire after fusing with the ancient Digimon spirit of fire. Additionally, they were much more resilient because he used fire-style ninjutsu when he was a Gunimon. Naruto learned how to incorporate elements into his shadow clones from ancient Greymon and Minato. With his fire abilities, he could now create fire shadow clones with ease and make them withstand up to 50 hits before dispelling. He was able to control his power even more quickly as a result. The primary issue with becoming a Gunimon was that using the positron laser and Omni Sword became more difficult. There was nothing to stop him in his human form. However, it was difficult for him to maintain control over both his own Digimon abilities and the powers Imperial Dramon had sealed in his weapons to make them function while he was in his Digimon form. It would remain that difficult, according to ancient Greymon, until mastering the ancient Digimon's chakra became as natural as mastering his own. Naruto and Kakashi were engaged in a Kenjutsu duel that Friday. As it happened, Kakashi had a ninjutsu from his time as an Anbu agent, and all Anbu members needed to learn how to use one. After defeating Naruto in a match, he pointed out to Naruto the shortcomings in his technique and stance. A loud thud came from somewhere, followed by a lot of screaming, before they could do much more. Although he hoped to heaven that he was mistaken, Kakashi had a nagging suspicion about what it was. "Team 7, move out," he said. Following his lead, they all went to the scene of the disturbance and discovered that 3 large animals were attacking, one of which was a massive tan tortoise with spikes protruding from its shell. The bottom half of the second creature's body was most likely enclosed by a massive blue shell. It had green spots on the black upper half of its body. It had large pupils and amber eyes. The newly reconstructed buildings were being destroyed. The final creature was able to walk. It had a 15-foot horn on its head, but its legs were stubby. It had a white underbelly and black armor all around. It appeared to be a modified Triceratops. "I think they're Digimon," Naruto told the Warrior of Fire in his mind. "Yes," said ancient Greymon, "the black one with the enormous horn is Monochromon, the black one with green spots is Mori Shellman, and the tan one is Tortomon. Mori Shellman is the weakest. The upper half of its body is totally helpless, just like its cousin Shellman. It is also quite slow because of its enormous shell. Keep an eye out for his attacks and those of the other two if you wish to kill it. For a rookie, Mori Shellman is tough. Since his shell protects the majority of his body, defeating Tortomon will be difficult. He is the middle member of the group, and his legs are strong enough to move quickly despite his large shell, and his back legs are strong enough for him to stand on them alone. His legs are likely his weakest point. Monochromon is not like the others. You would need to have a lot of strength to get through his extremely durable armor. The armor should be pierced by the Omni Sword, but that's probably all. Monochromon would be the most difficult to defeat, so you should advise the ninja to try to focus their attacks on him." "How do you think I should approach this?" asked Naruto. "Digimon are regular. You can defeat them using only the weapons," ancient Greymon stated. "To get the experience, though, I would take on it as a Digimon if I were you." "Okay then," said Naruto. Looking at Kakashi, Naruto uttered, "What should we do?" "Well, we can't just stand here and do nothing, can we?" Sasuke said. "They will demolish our house." "Kakashi, instruct the ninja to focus their attacks on the black one," Naruto said. "However, they ought to be aware that its armor is difficult to penetrate." "According to Kakashi, I think I can get through that armor." "I hope so," Naruto said, glancing at Kakashi, "because the rest of the guys will seriously need that help." "How do you know how tough the armor of the black ones is?" asked Kakashi. Naruto replied, "I'll explain later, but for right now, we have to stop these monsters." When Naruto arrived at the Digimon's location, he discovered that the surrounding buildings had already been demolished. Mori Shellman remarked, "Hee, run, you foolish people, now there's nothing you can do to stop us." "Ancient Greymon, I'm ready. Give it to me," declared Naruto. Using his chakra, ancient Greymon changed Naruto into a Gunimon, who then scuttled to a building in front of the Digimon and directed energy into his right hand, causing fire to erupt from the holes in his gauntlet and cover his entire hand. "Oh, yeah, then how about this?" he yelled. "The Pyro Punch. Fire Rocket." Agunimon commanded the fire to cover his entire body, adding more power to his attack, and then he leapt off the building he was on and fell towards Tortomon, straightening his legs and putting his arms and hands to his sides, turning himself into a human missile. The fire leapt off his hand and traveled down towards Mori Shellman, with the front part of the attack shaped like a dragon's head. The attack struck Mori Shellman in the face, knocking him back. After slamming into Tortomon's head and landing, Agunimon quickly got back up and leapt off of Tortomon before sunshining above Monochromon's head and delivering a pyro punch in its direction. "Who in the hell was that?" shouted Mori Shellman. Agunimon created 2 fire shadow clones by hand sealing, saying, "One of them for each of us." After nodding, the clones leapt in the direction of their adversaries. Against Tortomon, Tortomon exclaimed, What the hell? As Agunimon leapt forward to meet him. How was the legendary spirit of fire acquired? Smirking, Agunimon remarked, I have my ways. Agunimon then began performing hand seals and shouted, Fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu, as he shunshined above Tortoman. Breathing a huge ball of fire, Tortoman could do nothing but withdraw into its shell to be protected from the onslaught. When Agunimon landed, Tortoman got out of its shell, then yelled out, Shell Phalanx. Tortomon's shell suddenly began to glow yellow, and glowing spikes began to emerge from it. The spikes shot up into the air, then turned around and headed for Agunimon, who began to fire pyro punches to counter each missile that was aimed at him. Agunimon hit some of the missiles, but they began to veer away, so he quickly shunshined into the air, which caused the missiles to turn around and return for him. Agunimon directed energy into his hands once more and yelled, Pyro Punch. When Agunimon landed, he began to shoot pyro punches at Tortoman, but surprisingly, Tortoman was able to avoid all of them. Agunimon hit most of the spikes with a small stream of fire that shot out of his hands. The rest were handled by the other shinobi. Agunimon hit Tortoman with a burst of fire, coated his fist in flames, and then punched him. Tortoman pulled his right forearm back and hit Agunimon 20 feet away, and as he was getting back up, he noticed that something overhead was obstructing the sun, and when he looked up, he saw Tortoman 25 feet in the air, ready to land on him. Fortunately, Agunimon was able to get out of the way before he turned into a pancake. Agunimon leapt to face Tortoman, directed his energy into his foot, and kicked him in the head, knocking him to the left. Tortoman immediately stood back up and screamed, Shell Pile. After that, Tortoman tucked itself into its shell and began spinning rapidly in Agunimon's direction. Agunimon attempted to stop it with fire attacks, but it was unsuccessful, and Tortoman slammed into Agunimon, pushing him back into a building. The Agunimon clone felt its energy ebbing away. It had only 10 minutes left to live, assuming it used no attacks. It needed a new source of energy, and that's when it hit him. When Agunimon stood up, it directed half of its energy into its foot, appeared by Tortomon's cheek with the shunshin, and kicked him back 10 feet before another ninja shouted, Wood Style, Restraining Vines Jutsu. Agunimon said, Thanks, now keep him down for a while. The jutsu caused thick vines to sprout from the ground, just as before, keeping Tortoman on the ground. I need every ninja here who knows a fire jutsu to hit me with it right now, shouted Agunimon. It'll increase my power, he said, as the ninjas stared at him in confusion. Hurry up and do it. Following his advice, the ninjas began firing a barrage of fire jutsu in his direction. As each jutsu struck him, Agunimon's power increased until he had nearly doubled the power that the original Agunimon had given him. At this point, he decided enough was enough and ordered the ninja to stop. Focusing his new power on his entire body, Agunimon leapt into the air and screamed, Phoenix Burst. Every part of Agunimon's body erupted in flames, and the fire transformed into a phoenix. Agunimon then turned to face Tortoman, who saw the attack and retreated inside his shell. Unconcerned, Agunimon struck the shell, which partially cracked and rattled Tortoman inside, knocking him unconscious, just as Agunimon had intended, allowing the original Naruto to purify him. The clone dispersed in a flash of fire, realizing that its work was done. With Mori Shellman, before he could do anything, however, he heard a loud yell and saw that Mori Shellman was right next to him. Before he could jump away, Mori Shellman grabbed him and threw him into a tree. The real Agunimon had decided to tackle this one because Ancient Greymon had said it was the weakest. Agunimon had decided to take that one out quickly. Agunimon became enraged as Mori Shellman began hurling boulders at him from his throat, saying, This damn tree slug just threw up on me, what the hell? After teleporting out of his boulder prison and landing in front of Mori Shellman, Agunimon leapt to his feet and threw a pyro punch directly into Mori Shellman's face, knocking him back as he charged forward to continue the attack. Agunimon then leapt to his feet and began twisting in midair, and as he did so, fire began to shoot from the holes in his armor. Agunimon cried out, Pyro Tornado. Agunimon leapt in Mori Shellman's direction and slammed into him, severely burning him and knocking him back. Agunimon immediately charged forward to take advantage of Mori Shellman's suffering, but only 5 feet away, Mori Shellman cried out, Shell Pile. Mori Shellman hurled itself at Agunimon like a top, tucked itself into its shell, and began spinning. Agunimon barely avoided the attack, but he had to flee as Mori Shellman turned around and pursued him. Agunimon backed into a wall and waited until the very last second, then used Shunshin to peer behind Mori Shellman. Mori Shellman crashed into the building, partially submerged in rubble, and while inside, Agunimon leapt to the top of a building next to them, then leapt off, shouting, Fire Rocket. Agunimon's body blazed with flames as he slammed headlong into Mori Shellman, which screamed in agony and dug itself out of the building before turning to Agunimon and shouting, "Rock Spitter." Agunimon was about to dodge when Mori Shellman began regurgitating boulders on a direct course with him. Agunimon attempted a few pyro punches, but they had no effect. A shout of dynamic entry, he was stopped. As the boulder broke in two, Guy leapt to the side and kicked it, turning back to Agunimon and saying, "I thought you might need a little bit of help." Turning back to the boulders, Agunimon muttered, "Arigato gozaimasu," as he and Guy began pounding them with their fists until they were reduced to powder. Guy hurried forward and leapt in Mori Shellman's direction, shouting, "Great Leaf Hurricane." Agunimon shoved in front of Mori Shellman and shouted, "Pyro Punch," as Guy's foot struck Mori Shellman's face and sent him flying back. Mori Shellman crashed into the ground after Agunimon delivered two pyro punches point blank at him, and when it rose again, he yelled, "Damn you, oh no, I'll teach you how to play tricks on me, mental fog." A dark purple cloud of gas erupted from Mori Shellman's mouth, first engulfing Guy and then swiftly engulfing the other ninja in the crowd. As reality set in, the ninja all began to leap to the roofs in an attempt to escape the gas cloud, but some were unable to do so because the gas had infected their system, leaving them coughing on the ground as the cloud covered them. Agunimon hurried to the roof and asked his tenants, Ancient Greymon, "What's up with this mind fog attack?" "That mind fog attack damages someone's mind," the ancient warrior of fire said to him in a hurry. "You will initially lose your reflex speed or range of motion. However, if you inhale too much, you will eventually begin to lose your vision, go insane, and eventually die. Before it reaches anybody else, we must remove this stuff from the village." Naruto heard the sensei of Team 10 shout, "Wind style, great breakthrough," before he had to take any action. Suddenly, a massive wind blew the mind fog away, and Agunimon looked down and saw that many ninja had fallen victim to it. He hurried to them and picked one up, moving the man to a building away from the fighting so he would be safe, and then he jumped off the building, firing pyro punches as he fell. When he landed, Agunimon rushed towards Mori Shellman, and when he was close enough, he leapt towards him and caught fire to hit him with a fire rocket. Asuma leapt forward and began doing hand seals, and when he was done, he yelled, "Fire style, burning ash accumulation." Agunimon thought, "Wow, Ancient Greymon was right. Mori Shellman is basically a rookie." Asuma exhaled a huge black plume of smoke that covered Mori Shellman. He then clicked his teeth, causing the black ash to catch fire and severely burn Mori Shellman. "What the hell? Both of my clones already dispelled." Agunimon rushed forward and began punching and kicking Mori Shellman's shell, but was unable to do any damage. Agunimon then felt a migraine coming on. Agunimon had aimed a pyro punch at Mori Shellman's head, but the creature retreated into its shell. Mori Shellman shouted, "Shell pile," before Agunimon could leap back. "This is not going to feel good," Agunimon reflected. Agunimon thought, "I need to finish this quick. That last one won't go down so easy," but Guy jumped in the way and kicked Mori Shellman back like a soccer ball before he could hit him, knocking him into a building and trapping him inside. As Agunimon leapt in the direction of Mori Shellman and struck it with a fire rocket, Naruto heard Asuma exclaim, "Hey! Proceed to assist Kakashi with the final one. This one is ours." Nodding, Agunimon headed for the area where the final group was handling Monochromen. They had prevented it from destroying buildings, but they hadn't done much damage. Monochromen's armor was too thick for regular kunai and shuriken to penetrate, but it was mostly on his back, making his underside its weak spot. Additionally, Naruto noticed a red burn on his belly, which was the result of his clone's last resort. It caused a bad burn on Monochromen's body, but it caused the clone to dispel. Agunimon shouted, "Fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu," and began performing hand seals. Monochromen roared in agony as Agunimon blew out a massive ball of fire, striking it squarely in the burn. Monochromen turned to face him and screamed, "Volcanic strike." As Agunimon was getting up, he saw Monochromen rush at him with its horn down, and he thought, "Oh shit." A ball of lava erupted from Monochromen's mouth and struck Agunimon squarely in the chest. He could hear someone shouting behind him, "Earth style, Earth projection wall jutsu." When Agunimon looked up, he saw Kakashi standing over him. He muttered, "Arigato," and sunshine to Monochromen's burn. Then he yelled out, "Pyro punch," and covered his hands in fire before punching Monochromen and letting the attack go point blank. Monochromen roared in pain once more and repeatedly failed to get its horn out. When he saw the burn, Kakashi performed some hand seals and yelled, "Wind style, Blade of Wind." When wind began to circle the two digits to form an invisible blade, Kakashi reached out and stabbed the wind blade into Monochromen's burn, causing him to yell out once more. The Digimon's thrashing finally caused its horn to come free. Once its horn was free, it charged at Agunimon, who easily leapt over Monochromon and began performing hand seals before shouting, "Hokage Bunshin no Jutsu, Jutsu Fire Shadow Clone." 10 clones materialized in 10 plumes of fire, and each one swiftly advanced to encircle Monochromon before shouting, "Kamikaze Charge." With a shout of, "Hokage Bunshin Deibakuha," each clone rushed forward, great explosion of Fire Shadow Clone. Each time the clones approached Monochromon, they exploded, and Monochromon recoiled in agony. Seeing that Monochromon was preoccupied, Kakashi flipped up his headband to reveal his Sharingan, ran behind Monochromon, and began performing hand seals, grabbing his wrist and pointing his palm downward while shouting, "Rakery." After covering his land with lightning, Kakashi ran in the direction of Monochromon's back legs, cutting both of them deeply with a single pass through. Agunimon jumped back to give himself some space to run, and then he began to run at full speed in the direction of Monochromon, shouting, "Fire Rocket." As Agunimon wrapped himself in flames, he leapt for Monochromon, who exclaimed, "Volcanic Strike." Another ball of lava smashed out of Monochromon's mouth, and Agunimon used the propulsion of his fire rocket to push it back. Agunimon pushed through the volcanic strike, but then he encountered another one, and then his fire rocket attack began to wane. Agunimon knew he couldn't survive this third one, and just before his attack was completely extinguished, he heard a voice behind him yell, "Fire Style, Grand Fireball Jutsu." Agunimon turned around and saw that Sasuke had launched the attack at him. He closed his eyes and accepted the power of the attack that Sasuke had given him. With the help of the power, he was able to push his fire rocket back to full power, which he used to blow through the third volcanic strike attack and crash into Monochromon, who gave a loud cry of pain as he turned into a black silhouette. Realizing that he had his chance, Agunimon changed back into Naruto and called forth the Omni Sword. This moment is the result of the decisions you have made throughout your lives. You chose to come into my world and to attack my house, and now your decisions have led to your death. I hope you create better ones when you reincarnate. Purify, Digicore. The strips of digital code that were circling Monochromon entered the Omni Sword, then returned to the remaining Digi.Egg, which floated into the sky until it created its own portal to the digital world, as Naruto leapt forward and slashed him. Kakashi approached Naruto after he had defeated Monochromon, chuckling lightly and saying, "I should have known that it was you behind that armor. The only person who is stupid enough to go straight after these monsters in that manner is you." With an embarrassed expression on his face, Naruto uttered, "You're not angry with me, are you?" "I am a little angry," Kakashi remarked. "I'm your sensei, Naruto. My goal is to help you improve as a ninja. In order to know when and how to assist you, I must know what you are capable of. Now, if I don't know what you're capable of, how can I help you improve as a ninja?" Speaking, Naruto remarked, "I understand, Kakashi, sensei." "Naruto, we're going to talk about your abilities after this battle," Kakashi stated. "But let's eliminate these monsters for the time being." After nodding in agreement with Kakashi's statement, Naruto turned to face Tortomon and Shunshin, who then approached him. Naruto used the positron laser to blast Tortomon, who let out a cry of agony as Naruto continued to do so. Tortomon grew angry and screamed, "Shell Phalanx." Naruto rushed forward to cut Tortomon, but the latter swung its head toward him and knocked him away. Naruto flipped in the air, stuck to the side of a building, then jumped back towards Tortomon and shot him in the head. Tortomon let out a yell of pain, but a ninja yelled, "Water Style. Water Dragon Jutsu." Several of the yellow glowing spikes that emerged from his shell were easily shot down by Naruto while the other ninja took the rest. A massive water dragon emerged from a nearby stream, knocking Tortomon over and soaking him as he fell, and Kakashi shouted, "Lightning Style. Lightning Dragon Jutsu." A lightning dragon emerged from the clouds above, slamming into Tortomon and causing it to scream in agony as the electricity passed through him, turning him into a black silhouette. Naruto swiftly purified Tortomon and thought, and then, there was one. He hadn't moved an inch since Naruto left, and the ninja hadn't given him a single inch either. Naruto jumped to the top of a nearby building and began performing Han seals, shouting out, "Hokage Bunshin no Jutsu," as he appeared next to Mori Shellman, who was already on the run from the other ninja. Several fire plumes transformed into clones, which then leapt from the structure and slammed into Mori Shellman while shouting, "Hokage Bunshin Deibakuha." Mori Shellman screamed out as the clones all exploded upon contact, and after 10 seconds of non-stop fire, he transformed into a black silhouette. Naruto leapt from the building and stabbed Mori Shellman in the head to purify him. The adrenaline of the battle left Naruto as he landed and dispelled the Omni Sword, and he collapsed to the ground as fatigue and exhaustion took hold of him. Naruto felt someone pick him up by the back of his shirt, but he didn't care because he was too exhausted. The Hokage walked alongside Kakashi as he carried Naruto to the Hokage Tower, where he began putting up privacy seals to ensure that nothing they said would be revealed. The Hokage then reached into his battle gear and took out a soldier pill, which he then gave to Naruto. When Naruto's energy returned, he got back up and turned to face the Hokage, asking, "Why did you guys carry me here?" As the Hokage took his seat in the room, Kakashi walked over to a chair and sat down, gesturing for Naruto to follow suit. "Naruto, we need to discuss that armor you wore today," Kakashi said. "People might say that the Kyuubi that was imprisoned inside of you is escaping because of the way it altered your appearance." Gazing at Kakashi as though he had developed an extra head, Naruto asked, "What are you talking about? My appearance didn't change all that much. You gained a foot in height, put on what appeared to be 80 pounds of muscle, and your hair grew past your ass," Kakashi remarked. "That's what I'd consider much." "Kakashi's right, Naruto," said Sarutobi. "The abrupt alteration in appearance is highly unusual. Given the villagers' intelligence or lack thereof, they will deduce that you are being affected by the energy of Kyuubi no Yoko. Although I can calm them down, I want to know the truth first. What on earth was the source of that armor?" "All right," Naruto said, "but it's a long story." They were obviously skeptical until Naruto showed them proof, mainly that it allowed Minato to control a shadow clone and reveal their dirty secrets. After 10 minutes of Naruto rolling on the floor laughing uncontrollably, Sarutobi said, "Okay Minato, I believe you." Naruto told them everything, including the fact that the Kyuubi was actually ancient Greymon, that his father was sealed inside him, and that King Drazel was a threat. "For heaven's sake, please stop talking." "Minato. Sensei, is it really you?" Kakashi asked. Minato gave a nod and said, "Yes, I am okay. And I must admit, Kakashi, I appreciate what you're doing for your team." According to Kakashi, "Thank you, Sensei." "All right," Minato said, "but it's time to talk about the true reason we're here. How will we respond to Drazel?" Sarutobi stated, "We're already doing what we can about these Digimon attacks, but unless we can stop them at the source, we're just biding our time until we meet one we can't defeat." "Well, that option is out unless we can march an army into the digital world," Minato stated. "We must figure out how to revive the ancient warriors." Sarutobi said, "But to bring the Jinchuriki together would take nothing short of a village alliance." According to Minato, if ancient Greymon's stories are anything to go by, a village alliance is the least that we'll need. "I realized that when the Kyuubi attacked our village, it was influenced by someone else," Kakashi remarked. "Nevertheless, the Biju have a reputation for wreaking wanton havoc. In what way can we be certain that the other Biju are as rational as the Kyuubi?" After giving Kakashi's statement some thought, Minato remarked, "Good point. In fact, we don't know. The rest of the Biju might be completely insane, for all we know. However, when ancient Greymon attacked our village, we had the exact same thought. We must give them an opportunity." With a nod, Kakashi uttered, "If you say so. How can we be so certain that the other Jinchuriki could do the same thing that Naruto does, even if we do form a village alliance?" Sarutobi asked. "How can we be certain that the other Jinchuriki are well suited to be the ancient warriors?" "The Biju make the decisions," Minato stated. "They won't become ancient warriors if their Jinchuriki isn't appropriate. To my knowledge, they are unable to impose the change. Furthermore, in the worst situation, we could attempt to break the seal and allow the Biju to escape, after which they could select their own warrior." Sarutobi murmured, "I should have given this job to Kakashi as soon as you died, Minato." "With the way you bitch and whine about it?" Kakashi asked. "Never in 1,000 years." Jumping back into the conversation, Naruto said, "So, OG.san, are you able to assist us with this?" Backquote. "Of course you can," said Sarutobi, nodding. "I'll see if I can be of assistance." Kakashi added, "I'll lend a hand however I can. I have some fire and wind style jutsu that might be useful to Naruto." "I can't thank you two enough for this," Minato said, nodding. "All we have to do now is get ready for the next conflict." Sarutobi replied, "If what you said is true, we're gonna need all the help we can get."
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.